G'day, denizens of the mortal realms of the bearded form. We are talking all things Cities of Sigmar. This is episode 3 of 3. So if you're joining us for the first time, we have had a discussion focused around the humans. We've had a conversation around the elves. And we are now with Canada's finest, Matt Kowalyk. Hope I got that right. Who is the owner of a book of grudges greater than South Sydney Rabbitohs and Russell Crowe. Australians, you know what that means. Everyone else probably has no idea. But it's before we kicked off, I said to you, Matt, that I wanted to go find something. And so our professional sport is rugby league. It's like it's kind of like the NFL without headgear and like padding. And there's a team in the competition, the oldest team called the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which is owned by Russell Crowe, who we know loves a good fight, if anyone loves South Park. But they put out a book about 10, 15 years ago called The Book of Grudges. And I thought this would be perfect for this episode. And I couldn't find it. It's hidden somewhere. I've got The Book of Grudges. It's not my sports team, but I did buy it. I thought it'd be hilarious. But you are a Duardin. You are going to talk to us about how the new Cities of Sigmar looks with a Duardin focus. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to play with your dwarves, folks. So we're not saying that you have to play 100%. But given this book is so deep with lots of combination synergies and builds, the best way to break this down, from my experience, is to look at it with a core focus. So in past episodes, we've talked about 60 to 70%. If you look at Gitz, you look at Skaven, you look at anyone who has this kind of multi-keyword kind of build style, to avoid getting into analysis paralysis. That's kind of a really good kind of just a theme to keep in your mind. But anyway, Matt, Canada's finest, you're here to talk about Duardin. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, let's do an intro first and let's get into this new Cities book, because it is deep, it is rich, there's a lot of cool things to talk about, and I want to know how dwarves play in this realm.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, my background in cities, I actually, when AOS first came out, one of my first armies, actually, I think it was my first complete army was Phoenix Guard or Phoenix Temple. So, tip my hat. I was the #1 Phoenix Temple player in the world at the time because I was the only one. But rip them now. But as the Cities of Sigmar book came out, it introduced me to a lot of the Free Guild and of course the dwarves, and the amount of Greywater Fastness Get Started boxes that I bought when I saw those War Scrolls, because honestly I loved Iron Drakes. I think they were, at the time, they were amazing, and I think that was back in the day when Cogsmith actually had play, because as you mentioned in your video a little bit while ago, just rocking them with a bunch of missile batteries was just hilarious in Greywater Fastness, just sending the
Oh,
stuff
and
off.
and don't forget when you could bring in the Skink Star Priest as well, and it used to
Yep.
allow you to re-roll ones, I think it was. So you could bring it down to like hitting
Yeah.
on 2s or hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, 4 batteries. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous. That was true Iron
Yeah.
World at its peak.
Yeah, you just rock your Cogsmith, the Lord Ordinator, the Skink, and then those three things that made no sense to being, helping Free Guild, they did in a big way. And I had some fun picking some big stuff off at the other end of the table, because the range on those things, because then you had the old macroscope and all that fun stuff. It made for a good time. And then yeah, you'd have your iron drakes, and then for some reason they ended up becoming like better in city, or in Living City, because of their no move. And just fluff made no sense, but just popping them in board edge, because they don't move, they get the extra shot. Having a Rune Lord babysit them, they get their extra rend, and they're nasty. And when they first came out, they were cheap, and then people realized we probably shouldn't allow that anymore, and they went up to like 180
Yeah,
points, I think it was, or something
yeah,
like that.
they got a mad tax. Like, as
Yeah.
soon as the bridge, endless spell, the bridge, I've forgotten its first name, Soul Scream Bridge.
Awesome, yeah.
As soon as you started seeing that, like even Hello Heart wizards like teleporting these blocks of Iron Drakes with like a Rune Lord or a Warden King behind it, and like just absolutely blasting people off, and like, yeah, they got the Slanesh tax.
Yeah, it was a good time. Like I've always been kind of a heavy mix of magic and shooting with my front line of my Phoenix Guard, just because that's always been my bread and butter. Butter, rest in peace. But they're kind of still in the game with Blackguard, so I'll figure out a way to mix and match where I can. But yeah, and then I think dwarves are the only thing in the book that didn't see any sort of legend hammer, which was nice. We didn't lose anything in terms of units, but we lost some cool stuff, some fun stuff. But there's ways of making it work. Honestly, I think there's ways of making everything work in the game in the right situation. They're still durable as all hell, like they've always been. It's just their biggest problem, which has always been it's the same thing with fire flares, is they're stumpy little boys and they have a hard time getting where they need to be. So, but there's ways around it in this book, and that's what I love about Cities of Sigmar. I've always loved it in the old book. This book is there's ways of finding something that you're just like, oh crap, how do how does that even work? But it does, and you can figure out some cool stuff. Like the first GT I played in a long time. I'm kind of doing the retirement tour of my Phoenix Guard, and I went 4-1 in an old book, and it was yeah old book, and I'm playing against current corn. I'm running Hollow Heart, current corn, all that stuff, right? And it's like, oh, how did you combat the bloodthirster that came in and turned off your ward save? I just threw Blizzard at it and hope that he didn't he didn't ignore it, right? But
So you've had and like that's I love that people have a chance for the retirement tour, because there are some things, and for those who have a mixed force where you have like handgunners or you've got certain units, yeah, you've got a couple of months probably of a retirement tour, but it also gives us good time to now start thinking about what do we want to build towards. If I don't have a full Duardin army and I want one, or maybe I'm like, look, I feel like I need some speed, I need some range, I need some wizards in the current meta. That's what we're going to unpack today. Like, how do I start thinking about it as a Duardin player? You talked about the good times. You talked about the times that we had all of the jank and we had some absolute incredible times. Go back even to the old Anvil Guard days where you'd get the no armor save, blitz everyone with your gyrocopters. We've had a lot of great times.
we
How
did. I
you
mean, tours were a good time. Honestly, I still think there's good times to be had in there. I'm just, I'm awaiting a little bit of a points adjustment where other places where some units make sense, but we'll talk about that later.
Let's get into that. So
Okay.
how are you feeling now? So you've had the good times of the past. Are you feeling that this book is going to shelve the dwarves? Is it something that is going to see people just absolutely building around the dwarves? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Like, what are you feeling right now with a Duardin focus?
So I feel like currently the dwarves are going to be pretty good support pieces, like certain units that you can mix and match in there. I still feel very strongly in the fact that you can soup all of your races into this, and they all kind of have a role. I think the dwarves are 100% dwarf army might be a little hard. Doesn't mean it's not going to be fun, because I mean they're hard to shift, and all you got to do is get to a point. You just got to get there eventually. But there's just things in the book that do it better or the same for cheaper. My opinion right now, my again, we'll talk about this later, but my favorite unit from dwarves right now is the hammerers. I mean, we'll talk about orders and stuff, but
Yeah,
I
we
love
we're
the hammerers.
definitely
Yeah,
getting it. We'll get into the weeds.
yeah,
We'll get into it. Rest assured, folks, we will
yeah.
get into the weeds. I'm not going to cut Matt off, but I just want to get a good understanding, right? So right now, because you're right, when I looked at the cities range, and I know it was actually even leading up to cities, it was human, human, human focus, and all of the new units were previewing. It's like there was this weird feeling for the elves and the dwarves going, are we being legend? Are we going to be moved out into some combination dwarf book, which would be Fire Slayers, KO, and Cities dwarves? Like there
Mhm.
was all this like really weird, we didn't kind of know where we were going to be. And then when we saw the model release, there was no legends and there was no new units. So, and we will get to that, but it was kind of this weird spot. It's like, okay, well, if I was playing with my dwarves, I can still do it. If I want to lean into the new city stuff, I can do it.
Mhm.
And to your point, it's really up to us, right? And there are some deficiencies if you kind of build into an all dwarf list, there's a couple of things that you might struggle with. Right now, we've got the magic meta. That's just an example. But overall, I'm kind of hearing at least either neutral or positive.
Yeah, I'm more on the neutral point. Like I said, I think they're going to be there's going to be some really good synergies that you can find with certain units, right? And again, we'll talk about it later. But 100% army, I think you're going to struggle, but I think they will meld well with very well with some of the human lists that we're seeing. I think you can throw some dwarves in there as basically to fill out a role that you kind of got with a human unit, and they might even be a slightly better or do it the same, and it just means honestly that a bunch of us that have a bunch of our Duardins, we could still play them. I still see roles for them, and I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like I look at this, and I'm not a big dwarf player, so just context. I'm definitely very heavily human focused, being an
Mhm.
empire player. But I've always had a history with the dwarves as the empire's greatest allies, who forged Galmaraz, who helped forge the empire and the rune fangs, and all that good stuff. For any of you Warhammer Fantasy Battle players back in the day, you understand what I just talked about. But the dwarves, you're right, are really, really interesting because you have some cities that are built around them, which is really cool. There's no new units, but you also had no legends. So really, when we start thinking about this, because I'm going to get straight into the weeds here, because I
Yep.
think we've said we'll talk about this in a minute, probably too many times, and people are just like, shut up and actually talk about it. So let's actually talk about the new cities book. So first things first, if you are someone coming in from the old book to the new book, the allegiance ability has been fundamentally being gutted and completely changed. So you do have your stronghold still, so we still have some sub factions that we'll get into at due time. But there was a couple of other things, right? There was these honored retinues where if you had two little sub commanders next to each other, they could generate command points. You could protect and bounce off wounds to a unit if they were close by. There was a coalition, like 1 in 4 Stormcast. In Tempest's, you could do 1 in 4 KO. You could do 1 in 4 Sylvaneth in Living Cities. There was a whole bunch of rules that were basically all gone. They are
Hmm.
100% all gone. So Cities Allegiance has completely changed. Before we get to the new allegiance, I want to know, how do you feel as a dwarf player the impacts of losing these particular rules?
Yeah. So I think is going to go. I think everyone's going to agree that coalition and fundamentally will change how that being gone will change how we build our lists, because we've been so used to bringing in 1 in 4 of something, right? Like running KO and Tempest's was super fun. It was a great time. But I am now on the side, and I've always kind of been this with every book, is I'm very happy to know that I think that this book can compete from within cover to cover, rather than bringing things in from other armies to make them like amazing, right? Like we again we lived the fulminator in Living Cities, right? That was awesome, but again, it was we're bringing in something from another faction to make our city good. And I
Mm.
think in this, I think the way they've written it right now, it's competitive from within, and we don't need to bring the other stuff, which I love personally. So.
And you can still bring in 2 dragons. You can still
Mhm.
bring in Fulminators. You can still bring in a Knight Incantor. But you're right, like it was a crutch. And if I think about some of my old lists, I loved running Krondus or Karazai in a Cities of Sigmar list. But like I was building around this 1 in 4. Even if I go back to my old Hallowheart days before the changes to being a general, a Knight Incantor was my general because it could be a higher armor saved wizard, which I really liked. But you're right. Like when you look at the War Scrolls, I think there are some really good quality of life improvements,
Mhm.
even for the dwarves. And most of the changes that I looked through, I really liked as a dwarf player. There's probably one that I kind of cried a little bit inside personally, and we'll talk about it when we get to that point. But otherwise, like you're right, the War Scrolls have kind of improved. So you don't need to rely on stuff outside of the book, but you've got a deep enough ally pool that you can still bring in a gun hauler. You can still bring in a couple of units in your match playlist.
I mean, yeah, and then we could still bring in, and he's a dwarf. We could still bring in Gotrek, and that's just a good time to eat that guy up the board and have fun. So
He's a special little boy. But overall, you're kind of feeling, just to kind of summarize this, yeah, we lost some things, but it's not like it's completely crippled your army in the way you like to play Duardin.
yep, I love this book. How I play dwarves, how I play anything in the cities. I love this book, and I'm not just biased because I love cities. I love how this is written.
Well, we also lost some units. So I've asked this same question to everybody else, but for you, this is the least impactful, right? So when I talk to my other two guests, when I talk to like the human side and the elf side, you look at it there. You lost your phoenixes, you lost your rocket batteries and your volley guns. You lost your phoenix guard. You lost a whole bunch of wood elves type stuff. You lost handgunners and demigryph knights and great swords, and you lost a lot from the elves and the humans, but nothing dwarf actually got changed. Like there's no removal from that. So for you, I imagine from a Duardin point of view, no change. But as you said, the soup, which is combining multiple elements from the book, that's where you've been impacted.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, I built my core around 40 Phoenix Guard and a Frost Heart, and then build some dwarves in around that because they're great protection for my Iron Drakes that were kicking around, teleporting around, shooting the crap out of everything, right? But in terms of the dwarf units, the only like we didn't lose any units, but we lost some cool abilities on the War Scroll that made them really neat. That kind of hurt some of our units pretty bad. Uh, Not to the point where they're not playable. I mean, a Rune Lord is still a priest, and priests are good. Priests are amazing, but yeah.
And that was the rule I was alluding to. The fact that the Rune Lord lost its +2 to Unbind and Dispel. As soon as I saw that, my heart crumbled. I'm like, oh, I love that unit. That
Well,
unit being able to just get that guarantee, and then if you have to use heroic willpower for an extra, oh, so good.
yeah, I think he could still unbind, which is still great. I mean, you can run a bunch of priests and still unbind. So I mean, that's not necessarily bad. We have the primals, which isn't awful to have to rely on. But I think the changes to the Rune Lord hurt more units than just the Rune Lord. His prayer to help Iron Drakes is now changed, where it's not anything or any weapon; it's now melee weapons only. It's kind of good, kind of bad, where you don't need a Rune Lord to babysit your Iron Drakes to make them awesome anymore. You could just you could, again, for living cities, you can just teleport a unit of Iron Drakes and not have to have the Rune Lord there to give them extra rend, which is nice. The only thing that sucks is they will never have that rend again. But again, you don't need to sacrifice another Rune Lord up the board to babysit. So
But it was like, let's be honest, it was a little bit ridiculous when you had you teleport them up the board, they get an extra attack for not moving, then they're doing mortals. Was it mortals on sixes, if I remember correctly? Like it was just complete stacking of abilities, which is why the points went up so ridiculously high.
mhm.
Um, so in a
Yeah, I
way,
mean,
like
yeah,
like
like they were
I'll miss
Ren
it.
two. Yeah, yeah, like they were Ren two weapons, a boatload of shots. Um, if you got curse off, ouch, right? So, yeah, yeah, yeah. But now that that's kind of your Iron Drakes are now back down in points where they used to be. They just don't do as much. Which, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm gonna miss it, like you just said. I don't hate it though because it was very, very good for a very long time. So we had our moment in the sun, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, make no mistake, I'm not underplaying the loss of the ability, but you could see that, like, they changed with Lumineth Sentinels and how they had to kind of rein it in a little bit because it was becoming a bit too overpowered. I can see why they've done it, but rest assured, I love the combination. So, not defending the choice,
Mhm.
but it's gone. But it also, what I'm hearing is that it doesn't mean just because you lost that ability, the Iron Drake's now going to retirement. They still got good play.
Yeah, I mean they're still fine. I mean, they have a great shooting profile still. They have rend. They lack a bit of range, but again, it's a unit that they still benefit from. If you put them from living cities on board edge, they'll still benefit from not moving, so they'll get the extra attack from that, which isn't necessarily bad. And honestly, I mean, they're Duardin. They're dispossessed. They're actually pretty tanky for what they are. So I mean, they can take a punch and still kind of be there. They all won't be there, but they can still be there, and you still might get another couple rounds of shooting by not moving them, right? So, and then
What?
they'll take some stuff out.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. They're still good. Actually, before I move off Iron Drakes, because I do want to talk about some of the other changes that I noticed, or at least
Mhm,
what have you noticed as well. I've got a couple that I noticed. Um, a lot of talk right now is happening around Fusiliers, which is the human new version of the handgunners. People are loving the combinations, and there's a few really good combinations, especially in grey water fastness when you add like Master of Ballistics and yada yada yada. And they're a unit who also benefits if they don't move, although there's jank that allows them to move and doesn't count as moving. Doesn't matter.
mhm.
How do you think Iron Drakes stand up to the Fusiliers now?
So right now, as we're talking,
Which
they
which is currently no
yep.
FAQ. The book is literally kind of hitting the shelf right now. Points may adjust, but right now it is rules as written in the
Yep.
book.
So right now, as we're talking, Fusiliers are sadly just better. They're cheaper. They're basically new Sentinels. If you get the proper spells and the stuff off, and quite frankly, we talked about this before we came live. Is they're actually also not a terrible front line just because of their when they're in their what is it their formation or whatever it is. Um, when they get shot, you can't rend them, which is
Mm,
like that makes them tanky. Then they're going to have potentially the ward and blah 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 of all the stacking stuff. And you put them on the front line. Do you really want to charge that? Because that unleash hell is going to hurt you, just because of the mortals that are potential out there. But and I'm fairly certain that you've talked about it at least in one of the videos. I know you did. I don't foresee those Fusiliers staying where they're at in points.
no.
And when that happens, it depends on where they're going to end up. Um, I can see them going up. I can see them almost hitting the how Iron Drakes got hit before, where they're going to go up 20 points, right? And then that's where you might start thinking, if you're running a heavy dwarf army, that's where you're going to start thinking maybe my Iron Drakes are going to be fine because you've now gone up in points, and then you've also got to pay for the other heroes to make them kind of your sentinels, right? So you'll have to pay for your Warforger, which he's going up in points. Don't care what anybody's saying. He's going up in points. So you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for that. Where that now 150 unit is potentially going to go up in 20 points, plus the 80 points that you're going to have to spend to get your aura of mortal wounds. That dude's going to go up. So I mean, right now you're looking at that unit, and I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people going out there saying, "I'm going out and buying 60." Cool. I think you're going to use 60 for about a month, and then
I'm
we're
not.
going to be
Oh,
buying you. We're going to be buying them off of like
yeah,
your troll
please.
trader or whatever. Yeah. So
Please, I haven't bought any Fusiliers when they come out yet. But rest assured, if you go do it, I'll go buy them off you. I'll be
yeah,
happy. Just don't paint them for me, please. Like glue them
yeah.
together properly. Don't be bad. So what I'm hearing right now is just pure War Scroll on War Scroll. Fusiliers is probably better right now. Obviously, the it's not inherently the best. Like it's not going to bust your chops immediately, but when you have the right combinations of synergies, it is a very deadly unit. But I think there will be some points adjustments, whether it's 10 points, 15 points, or 20 points. Who knows? But a combination, you might find that it may not be as ridiculous, but Iron Drakes still have their place from what I've seen, and I still like them, especially in a dwarf build where you've got the right synergies. But if I'm just taking a unit, I'm probably going Fusiliers right now because I'm human and I'm building around it. But I don't want this to be the Fusilier versus Iron Drake discussion.
Mhm.
I want to talk more about some of the other changes. And as I look through the War Scrolls and compared the old War Scrolls to the news, I think there's a lot of good quality of life improvements. Did you notice, or what are the ones that kind of stood out to you the most when it comes to Duardin?
Yeah. So I kind of like the Warden King a decent
Mm,
amount. Um, Again, I mean, like they're gonna suffer like every other dwarf suffers, where they're gonna be slow as hell. We all get that, but this dude packs a punch. I mean, he's 5 attacks, threes and threes, neg 2 could be use him as a counter charge. He's neg 3. D3 damage apiece. That's nothing to frown on. He doesn't stand on his rock anymore and does that stuff, but I mean, he's got the where the fearless leader, where when he fights, another unit wholly within 12 of them can fight. So he's basically got the sentinel thing of within range, right? And you pair him off with your counter charge, and you counter charge him, and if you've got the right artifacts, which again we'll talk about later, but I mean, this dude can surprise you on a counter charge, and there's ways of making him fight first, and all that fun stuff, or making everything fight last. If you properly put him where you need to be, and then he'll do some work, and then a unit within him will clean up what he doesn't kill. I think he's a big boy. He hits hard. He hits very hard. So
Yeah, getting the extra point of Ren, going from Ren 1 to Ren 2. He gained an extra attack, going from 4 attacks to 5 attacks.
mhm.
I do want to, before we move on to another unit, I do want to call out or get at least your thoughts on standing on the Oath Stone was a pain in the ass, right? Because you had to sacrifice your move to stand on the stone, but it would give you a battle shock immunity within 18 inches, which is a massive aura. And it's not like the War Scroll just reduced that aura. That is completely gone.
Yeah.
So has that changed your thinking around the value of a Warden King? Do you see there's other inspiring presence plays you need to consider? Is it changing the way you build that now I'm going to go minimum size units because I can't build these like 20, 30 block units and risk the battle shock, but the battle shock? Like, how does
So
this working for you?
yeah, so there's other changes to other war scrolls that I think kind of mitigate that. So just specifically talking about the Warden King, I'm now not afraid to throw him in combat, right? Where he was before, he's, oh, I gotta stand on the stone, and he's just kind of there, right? So now he hits harder. He does more. He does other things for the units around him rather than making a battle shock. And the change to another war school that I was alluding to is the long beards, where you can mitigate your battle shock, right? So now they don't make them battle shock immune. Don't get me wrong, but when a model they have a thing where if a model would flee from a unit wholly within 12 of your long beards, for each model that flees on a 4+, they don't flee anymore. So really, you're only losing half of your battle shock. And those dudes aren't terribly expensive. I think they're only 130 points. So I mean, you run a block of 10 of them, and then you could spread that out where that wholly within 12 is a giant bubble. So I mean, battle shock immunity is great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, at least this will mitigate kind of what you lose from the Warden King. It's a cool little ability, and we have that in the human side too with your command corp. But just having these dudes in there, and you can outfit them with great axes, or they could be a tanky group of guys, or you can outfit them with their great axes, and they can hit almost as hard as your hammers. So
It's cool with the Longbeards that it's not just their unit, it is any unit that's wholly any Duardin Cities of Sigmar Duardin unit that's wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So
yep,
if you've got this protecting, let's say your Iron Drakes, or you've got some Hammerers, or you've got whatever it is, if you're within that wholly within 12 inches of the Longbeards, on a 4 up. That's actually really cool. So it means you can reconsider where you put your inspiring presence down. It may mean that, instead of losing 10 models or 5 models, you're down to like 50% statistically on average.
yep.
And that might then completely change the way you use inspiring presence, or even if you need it at all, like you're willing to take the risk.
Yeah, and these dudes, you can hold them back as your kind of your protection to your rune lords that are going to hang back, and then they'll just give they'll also give out your lookout, sir. And then when you spread out your unit of 10, again, that's a giant aura of wholly within 12 inches. That's a big area that you can, if you do it properly, that's a big area where you can mitigate those losses due to battle shock, right? So
Yeah, and just to clarify what I just said, it is models who flee. So obviously you have to do the inspiring presence or the battle shock test first, then on the 4+ for every model that runs away. But if you know that, on average, you look at the dice roll and how many models you've lost, you could lose, no more than 3 or 4, as an example. It's worth the risk. You're like, okay, cool. Well, really, I'm only losing 2 statistically. So am I going to waste this CP if I'm going first? and roll it into the next turn, it's a consideration is what I'm
And
saying
then
here.
you could save your CP for that unit that's got 2-3 models left where battle shock would completely wipe them out, right? And then that those 3 dudes are there, they're still annoying. Just because the unit's still there, a unit still on the board is still annoying. And then you can use you pay the CP on them, keep them around, and then your unit that kind of took a little bit less loss, that's or has more bodies still in the unit, then you can keep that unit still pretty beefy, and kicking around. So
And depending on how big the unit is, you might find more value getting a rally off. So,
yep.
just a couple of thoughts. So you're liking the Longbeards. You've talked at the Warden King. We've talked at the Rune Lord. Unfortunately, losing the +2 to Unbind and Dispel. Any other units that you thought have a glow up that's worth calling out?
Yeah, I mean, all of them got some changes on their war schools that, or Iron Drakes didn't so much, but the changes from the Rune Lords really affected the Iron Drakes. But I think the
I've got
changes
two
to
more, by the way.
The
I've got
Iron
two
Breakers,
more.
yeah. So I think you're going to talk about the Iron Breakers.
Yeah. Oh my
Um,
gosh. As soon as I saw that, because for the last 30 minutes, you've been whinging about Phoenix Guard. And I'm like, one, why are we talking about elves on this show? Two, here is a perfect replacement for those bloody Phoenix Guard.
and they're 130 points. So they're 30 points more expensive than your Steel Helms, but they are beefier, they're tankier. They sorry, yeah. I mean, they're tankier. And then when we talk about orders, there's an order called Shield Wall, Form Shield Wall, that it would give. Generally, it would give a unit of dwarves 5 upward. Well, these dudes get a 4 upward from this aura or from this order. Sorry, and I mean, these guys are 3 up save. They are now for free, kind technically. If they get the order, they're a 4 up ward. So you have your Warden King kicking around there, um, and he'll issue that order and give a 4+ ward to a unit within 3 of them, and that's awesome.
That's incredible. It's so good. The last one that I'm going to call out, I'm going to own this one because people aren't going to. I actually have to apologize to this unit because the last 2 videos, I've actually had a crossover its face and incorrectly said it's not there. The old Cogsmith, trusty old Cogsmith, being able to issue commands to gyros, both your copters and your bombers, board wide. I thought that was really cool because, like, because you've got the new great cannon and it's human. It's like, okay, well, the Cogsmith doesn't synergize now because it's not order, it is now human.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, how do these things work? Well, now the Cogsmith has a role if you are building a gyro focused, or at least you're investing in a bunch of gyros and you want to get a command point out them. Obviously, they've got speed. This is not a bad little unit to consider. Would I have it in every list? No. But if I'm running a bunch of gyrocopters or gyro bombers and I want to get more consistency in my attack profile or my charge or whatever it might be, I don't mind the little old Cogsmith.
Yeah, you know what? He's not terrible. Well, he's fine-ish. But I mean, you can deploy him in a way where you put him somewhere, doesn't have to move, right? So that can actually benefit the battle tactic where you have to be within a couple board edges or whatever. Well, that dude, he's just going to be on a board edge anyways because he doesn't need to go anywhere, right? I mean, he's got a fairly okay shooting profile. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's 2 shots, 2 damage, blah blah blah. But issuing because gyrocopters lost the lead again, they gained it and then they lost it again. So they need a way to get those CPs out there because, quite frankly, if you're running a full dwarf army, we've talked about it again, everything's slow, so there's nothing that can issue those CP to them. So having a
Mm.
cogsmith, if you love your gyros, and I know a couple guys that absolutely love them, where they're just going to do some bombing runs and it'll be fun. You'll have your cogsmith in the back just kind of hanging out, and I don't remember his points off the top of my head, but I don't think he's terribly expensive, so it's
Let me have a
fine.
look. Let me have a look. Like, he was always like 60 to 80 points somewhere. Like, he was never a very expensive hero. I should just look for the cheapest hero.
He's 90 now.
90 points. 90
Yeah.
points. It's not
So,
horrible, especially when we get to, you know what, we'll get to it in a second because I do want to move forward. When we look at the new order mechanics, getting cheap heroes, having this particular hero around, and what the orders can do
mm,
does actually justify. If you can get those commands out to your gyros and you're issuing orders from the cogsmith, I think it pays for itself.
90 points is fine. 90 points is fine to issue an order if you can get him in position. It's great. It's fine.
But that's the assumption of you got gyros. If I don't have gyros, I'm not taking that hero. Just I always
No,
want to
because
call
he
that out.
benefits nothing else, right? But
Correct.
uh,
I'm not taking it for the orders for him. Like I just get someone else to do
yep.
that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you're gonna run dwarves, I think you need to have a couple gyros in there. They're cheap as well, right? I mean, the copters are 80 points a piece, right? And you can and like the chariots, you can run them in a unit of 3 now, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, you couldn't do that before, could you? Like
Nope.
it's specifically though the gyrocopters, not the gyro bombers. Bombers are still singles, but your copters can either be taken as a unit of 1 or as a unit of 3, and that's interesting.
Mhm. Yep, you got your speedy little dudes, and their guns aren't bad. So yeah, they're not bad little unit, and then being able to get CP from anywhere on the board is pretty sweet.
All right. The last question I want to ask you about the units before we move into the actual abilities and get some of your thoughts, and we'll unpack these orders. And you talk countercharge a few times now. There's a whole bunch of brand new units from the Great Cannon to the Steel Helms to the Cavaliers or to the Fusiliers. You've got the Pope. You've got like there's so
Hmm.
many like there's the Lioness on her Manticore. There's so many brand new units for humans. Is there any of them that you would consider in your quote unquote soup army, that combination mixed arms force where, you know, there's a deficiency, whether it is speed, whether it is whatever the deficiencies you'll call out in a minute. Is there anything in particular that's been added to the faction where you're like, you know what, this fills a gap?
Uh, Adding in Cavaliers into this is, in my opinion, quite good. I think these are your better option for your speed. They're a 3-up save on the charge. They do some great damage. They're pricey, 180 point. Yeah, 180 points. But I mean, what they do as a unit of 5 is quite good. And then if you run them in the city that I want to run, they move very fast and they can do some cool things. Um, yeah, and then honestly, I think as points start stand right now, I think you could take a block of 30 Fusiliers and be fine, because those boys are also tanky. So I think they actually kind of fit the role of a dwarf, kind of, anyways, as tanky as they are. And then if you have a front line of Iron Breakers in front of them with their 4-up ward, gross, right?
Mm.
So it's just there's since we're about to talk about it, there's orders and battle tactics that the dwarves simply can't do, and you need to bring them. I think you need to bring some humans in there to do it. Um, but that doesn't mean that you can't you can't have fun with your little stumpy boys. Anyways, I still think you can do okay with them.
Yeah. The other one I'll quickly call out that I think might work for you as well is the Wild Corp Hunters, because of the pre-game move. So I
Yep.
think that that movement ability, knowing that Duardin are traditionally slow, is potentially worth considering. And obviously, like there's chariots and other things that come in quite cheap that can help you there, their existing range. But a lot of the new stuff is very human focused and built around the synergy of humans. So if you're
Yep.
taking it, you want to build more than just one unit because the Pope or the Steel Helms or the Fusiliers are not going to do it just by themselves. If you're going to do the Cavaliers, you're going to need the Cavalier Marshal. If you're going to bring X, you're going to need to bring Y.
Yeah. And I think you can afford to bring in one more forger, simply because he's got the one rule where he can get +1 to cast, and then he'll just be putting out mystic shields because nothing anything else that he does doesn't really benefit anything. But he's your cheapest caster in the game or in the book, so fine. And he's got an inherent +1 to cast. Or if you have the extra 10-20 points, you could bring a battle mage. I know we were specifically talking about the new stuff, but you can bring a battle mage because it feels like it's a new unit because that war scroll has changed dramatically.
A lot. And we'll get to the spells. We'll talk about the spells. And
Yep.
there's some good spells in there. Look, if you've listened to my discussions in the past, we've already gone through this. the Cities of Sigmar orders, basically what you need to know as a footnote is that every hero in Cities of Sigmar can issue an order. Now, the orders are set as a mystery thing, so you put them down at the start of the battle round and you reveal them as they come up. So, and there's a whole bunch of things, right? I think you can only issue the same order no more than 3 times. There's
Yep.
blah, 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 blah. There's some human stuff. There's some generic stuff. Please read the screen, or you've heard me talk about this already twice. But what I want to talk about with Matt is specifically how the orders work for his list. So, Duardin have the 2 of them. One is the shield wall, which we already talked about through the iron breaker no breakers, yes,
Ironbreakers. Yep.
iron breakers have the improved shield wall. You've got another one called Grim Last Stand. There are 2 other ones that are generic for all cities, so advance information and countercharge. And then if you take an elf unit and elf heroes, you access there's 2 there, and humans specifically have 3 there. So talk to me as a dwarf player. How are you looking at the orders? What are the combinations that you're seeing? Like, who's a good recipient, or when do you issue them, or how are you thinking about all of this?
Yeah, so I'll go into the dwarf specific ones first because I think everyone's heard about what the other two do in droves, but they do have their benefits, which I'll get into briefly. But the shield wall, I mean, honestly, I think that is hands down. It's just that just goes on a unit of iron breakers, and then the fact that you can issue that 3 times on 3 different heroes, fine. That's actually really good. I think what really hurts that order is it's only in the enemy combat phase, which is I mean we eat having to strike last to get the ward. Fine, I would do that all day long because they're tanky. I just wish we could do it at any combat phase because I think the strike last is a decent enough penalty, quote unquote, where that I think that can justify being able to do that in both combat phases. And again, unfortunately, it's only in the combat phase, so we're susceptible to shooting. But again, I mean, they're a 3 up 130 point for 10 unit. They're tanky where shooting might not do a decent amount, and we always have access to bless to give them a 6 up ward until we're able to turn on the 4 up ward. So I mean, there's ways of going around it, but I would just like to see that be usable more than just the enemy combat phase.
Yeah,
It's great, still
I don't
great in the
hate that
enemy combat
idea.
phase, but
Yeah, I don't hate that either. It's like, yeah, obviously I would like it in both phases, but I guess because your order is only being issued once in the battle round, it has to happen at one point because you can't do any of these in
yeah,
multiple phases. Assuming that it stays as is, so it's only in the enemy, you still like it. It's a 5 up on the iron breakers. It's a 4 up, which is really cool. Makes you a lot more durable. As you said, it's melee only. It has to be issued by the hero. So, having a hero and troops is going to be your secret to success. Having these basically power pairs at kind of at absolute minimum. Um, as you said, it doesn't work in shooting. Is it just the iron breakers you think who are good recipients,
no,
or
I think anything's a good recipient of them. Obviously the math is just heavily in the favor of the iron breakers. But I mean, if your iron breakers start losing some casualties in there, where it's kind of like, maybe not. I mean, throwing them on a unit of longbeards that are equipped with shields, still fine because they're 3 up save because if you equip them with shield, they become a 3 up save, and then then they'll have the 5 up ward. Still a great thing. Same thing with hammers. 5 up ward on hammers is still great. Don't get me wrong. It's just the math on iron breakers is it's the way to go. 100%.
also a great way if your iron drakes get caught into combat and you want to
Yep.
keep them around? Just put that 5 up ward that gives you a couple of extra shots potentially when you go into your shooting phase.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a great order. It's a good order. I think there's a decent amount of what ifs or would be nices. I still like the idea of being able to do it in any combat phase, but it makes you think about when I should use it. right? Or how I should use it, because I mean, uh, doing it in either combat phase, I think, has different plays, right? So
Absolutely. And I also think as well, you've got to consider how this might play out if you in the priority roll. Do you give it away knowing that it's your enemy's turn and now you can do the 5-up or 4-up ward and you can soak up the damage?
Mhm.
Or is taking the top of the turn better and you fight yourself out of it than having to rely on shield wall? So I guess there's a couple of considerations that you need to have on who gets it, where it gets it, and what's the trade-off here.
Yeah, I mean, like, if honestly, if they're already if your whole army's already in combat, um, then um, then give them first turn, because then you just issue those orders and go, all right, hit me. You'll kill a couple things, and then I've got the battle shock mitigation. I've got all that stuff. That's fine. And then my next turn, I'm going to turn around and bonk you pretty good too, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, it's a great order. I still think it's going to make your opponent think about what they're going to do. I think going into a Khorne army, this is gonna be a really fun one to just like, all right, cool. Your demons that do your mortal wounds on fives or whatever it is, because you're in that sub faction. Well, I have a 4 board on it, so
Mm.
I am now in your combat phase. I am now Phoenix Guard with actually a better armor save than what Phoenix Guard had base. So
I like
yeah.
it. I like it a lot. What about that one's probably the most obvious, right? Strike
Yep.
last, enemy turn, you get a ward. What
Hmm.
about Grim? What about Grim Last Stand? So again, it's a Duardin one, has to be issued from a hero within 3 inches of the unit. And at the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit is slain by an attack made with a melee weapon, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the model and roll a dice on a 5. The model's unit, sorry, and roll a dice on a 5-up. You deal a mortal wound back. So kind of like what zombies are kind of doing, kind of like what Khorne is doing with the mortals. They
Yep.
can just do some damage on the way out.
But I think if this is worded how I've read it, which I could be wrong, but I believe this is written in a way that is old zombies, where you can pull from the back and do the mortals, which is awesome.
Yeah, so pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of that model's unit. So it's not necessarily from the model you're pulling
Yep.
from; it's from the unit. So
So that's old zombies, right? So I mean, if you do
mhm.
have a giant unit of something, then you could just start pulling from the back, and then do the zombies. Now, obviously, because we are a fairly tanky, again, these are the tankiest war scrolls in the book, for the most part. Then your mortal wounds back are going to be much less than what zombies are, or what murder rolls are. That's fine, but I mean, always being able to do damage to somebody when they do damage to me is a great time. And you've talked about in droves how much you love flagellants. Well, this is just flagellants that just don't die all the time. So
But just not to be confused, not on flagellants. It is an equivalent like flagellants. So and
yeah, sorry, yeah,
you'll see no, just because people just in case there's that one person who's like, I don't want to take flagellants. Like it's not about flagellants, it's about examples of flagellants. So
yeah.
flagellants, not flagellants. I look, for me, I always hate rules where I have to rely on dying, and probably because your models are way more expensive than Khorne, for example, or zombies. Like zombies, you get what 20 models for, is it 120 points, 125 points? Absolutely ridiculous.
120. Yep.
You're paying what 120 odd for 10 models. So the
Yeah.
efficiency is not like zombies. The efficiency aren't like your bloodbound guys that are like 80 points. So it's a little different.
No, but
It's a nice.
it's the only order that happens in my combat phase. So if I have the opportunity to do it and I have the orders available to do it, why not? Having the chance to do damage back to you while you're doing damage to me, it's never a bad thing. So I mean, fine. It's fine. And I would put that order down. The thing I love about order is it's more of a mind game of how you play it. Against your opponent, where they think that you have that order token next to one of your heroes, and then they take, it's like, oh, the obvious choice is shield wall on this guy, but oh, you turn it over, and then all of a sudden it's either a counter charge or the mortal wounds back on a 5, right? So just having an order token next to a hero next to the unit, I think your opponent has to think about it, without us having to do anything other than put a token down next to a hero, where it could be the obvious choice or just could be a weird one.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there as well. I don't want to kind of harp on it. It's interesting, right? It's very situational. I guess what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say is, unlike zombies, unlike flagellants, unlike your mortal corn, you don't build your strategy around how do I maximize the
No,
mortal wounds on the way out and then regrow, because you don't have the 4-up rally abilities. You don't have the regeneration like zombies have. You don't have the cheap units like corn, but it's an absolutely great little ability. But I would not build a Duardin list around this rule to
no,
kind of
no, you can't.
maximize the that's kind of what I'm saying here. Is
Hey,
like it's just
you
not
just
a
don't
strategy.
die enough. You're right. You just don't die enough for this to be like, oh, this is amazing. I'm gonna build around it. But like I said, it's a cool little thing, and it's fine. It's fine.
The other two generic ones are pretty obvious. I do want to get you to talk about countercharge in a second because you've mentioned it a lot already. Advanced formation allows you to, where is it? So, start of the move, you can move an extra 3 inches,
Hmm.
which is neat. If you are in the fortified position, which is what the Fusiliers use, it basically means that they don't they're not counted as moving, so you don't lose that ability, but it's specific to the Castellite. So unfortunately, is not going to help your Iron Drakes who don't have the Castellite ability. So it's getting a free move. Great, obvious.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
you're now 7 inch move dwarves, which is nothing to frown upon, right?
No, no,
So
no.
yeah,
Great for positioning turn one, getting onto objectives, and obviously there's movement shenanigans as well in Living Cities and Misthaven, but it says what it is on the box.
yep, it's good. I
Move.
mean, you would use it in my opinion. I think I would use it constantly early game just to get me where I need to be, and then you just kind of leave it alone after that, because that's when you just start throwing shield wall and counter charge out. So yeah.
Yeah, love it. And then let's talk countercharge, right? So how are you as a dwarf player thinking about this? Because you've mentioned it a lot already.
Yeah, so countercharge, I think just across the board for every race is fine, but I think it's great for it's very good for dwarves because the majority of our stuff already has rend, right? Or a lot of our stuff that's um,
I mean,
pretty beefy.
long beards, great axes are Ren -2. Your
Yep.
hammers are Ren -2. Your iron breakers are Ren -1. So you've got a lot of Rend already.
Well, I sadly Iron Breakers are yeah,
Oh,
they're Iron
sorry,
Breaker
no,
weapons are no rent. That's just on
sorry.
their
I was
missile.
looking. I was there. I looked at the missile profile there. So
Yeah,
that's on
but
me. No
that's
Rend
fine.
on their melee weapon.
But then that now gives my Iron Breakers -1 rend for a 130 point unit for 10. But I mean, 135 point or 130 point unit with rend. You don't see that very often. And now that that happens, right? It can happen. Rend one on your screen is never a bad thing. But where I love it is on your hammers or um, your Warden King, right? So you charge into my screen. If when I position properly, you charge into my screen of my already beefy iron breakers. I am now able to when you complete a charge within range, I am now able to make a charge, flip the order. I'm now able to pick a unit within 3 of that hero, and I can now make a charge in your charge phase. And then if it's a successful charge, then you gain +1 to rend. So now your hammers are -3 rend 2 damage apiece. Gross, right? Because I mean that's going to go through a lot, mostly everything in the game, right? And that'll even hurt your, your corn dogs that are running in with the 2+ 2+ save, right? I mean now they're a 5+ or whatever, right? So on the hammers is great. You get your White King where he's got shenanigans where when we go into the artifacts,
I
you can
lit.
charge him in. Yep.
Yeah, I
You
was.
counter charge him in, and if you position him in a way where he's now right in the middle of things of a couple units, or he's right in the middle of 2 units that have just made a charge. Well, in the combat phase, he's Undertaker and he pile drives, and then everything around him, if you succeed on one roll, it's not per unit, it's one roll, they all fight last, and it's like, oh crap. Well, and then you can issue counter charge up to 3 times. So if you have a couple units of hammers and one White King, and you have enough heroes around there, you can issue counter charge 3 times. White King goes in, makes everything fight last. Hammers go in, -3 rend before you even get to attack, or White King attacks.
The
First,
Warden King, not the
yeah,
White King.
sorry, not the White King.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
used to.
yeah. Matt's been playing a little bit of Soul Blight lately as
I've
well, so
literally got my soul blade behind me.
he's
Yeah,
I,
but
I, I
sorry,
wish
the
I
Warden
wish you
King.
had I wish you had Krell in Duardin. But
Yeah.
the other rule that I wanted to call out here is the Fearless Leader, where once the Warden King, not the White King, attacks, you can immediately fight with another unit of Cities of Sigmar Duardin if they're wholly within 12 inches of the Warden King and they haven't fought yet. So you can do like a 1-2 combination, maybe countercharge with the White King.
See,
You've
I
got
got you
me
going
onto
in.
this.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
got me this. This is you. The Warden King can do a counter charge. Then you do like a 1-2 little activation. I think that's neat.
Yeah, so if you can't position in a way where that pile driver is not going to hit multiple units, there's still a way of bringing your Warden King in and doing the pile driver on one unit, activating your Warden King, and then if the unit that you make fight last is tied in with another unit, you just don't activate the unit that they're already in because they fight last. So then you use the Warden King's ability to let another unit that's fighting something that doesn't fight last, they will fight right away. So
Mm.
it, well, I mean, there's I just love the chance of having my Warden King not on a stone and doing things in the thick of things because that's where he needs to be. So
Yeah, I think like if I think about what I'm hearing so far at the 45-minute mark, it's a fact that in the past, a Duardin focused army was always relying on the crutch. That was the Iron Drakes. It was
mhm.
always Iron Drakes blast everything and then everything cleans up. For once, I feel like you've got some really good things coming from the Longbeards, the Hammerers, the Iron Drakes, the Warden King can do some things. There's some interesting things with the gyro bombers and gyrocopters. And it feels like that the high tide has lifted all the boats and you're not just relying on 1 or 2 key pieces. And I think people are hearing that, yeah, you can build into the shield wall. Yeah, you can do a couple of mortal wounds on the way out. Yeah, there's some movement shenanigans. There's some counter charge. And then within some of this stuff and the rules and the various things that have happened in the book, there are now some interesting techie
Yep.
pieces that may not have always been there. So you've got options.
Yeah, I love the fact that our dwarves have movement shenanigans where they are going to be shockingly fast.
Yes.
They have the
And
potential of being shockingly fast, right? I mean, counter charge again. If you succeed on a counter charge, though, on average, that unit that's not anywhere near combat, well, on average, if you roll a dice, they're moving already up the board 7 inches, 8 inches, depending on your averages, right? Uh, to make the counter charge. So now that unit that you didn't think was in the thick of things is now in the thick of things. Your +3 to movement, 7-inch move dwarves, gross. Misshoven, Haven, whatever. Every one of your hero phases, they move D6. So I mean, if you spike those rolls, you now have 7-inch move base with, or not base, but with the order, and then you've got an extra D6 movement on that. So you're looking at another 3, 4. So you're looking at first turn on average 10 or 11-inch move dwarves.
yeah, and that allows you to guarantee. So I talked a lot earlier about the Grim Last Stand. It's not a tactic I can build around, but what I can build around is the fact that my first turn battle tactic in most battle plans will be to get into enemy territory. There's always been in a general's handbook some version of be in certain spot, score your battle tactic, whether it's invade or in past editions there's been different runs. Cool. I got 11-inch move, so all of a sudden like that gives me so much guarantee that I can be in enemy territory in most situations. That's something I can build around.
Yep.
Um, Really quickly of the others, because I do want to get into the other rules.
Sure.
The humans and the elves, while I don't want to go into each of the individual rules, is there one that particularly draws enough attention where you're like, I really want return fire, so I'm going to get some Fusiliers. Or you know what? Strike them down is a great rule because it helps me counter the strike last ability with something that strikes first. So I'm always going to guarantee myself that unit of I don't know, Dreadlord on Black Dragon or, Drakespawn
Yeah.
Knights. Is there anything here as a Duardin player like I want to mix something into my army?
Yeah. So, I mean, the two that you just talked about are great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Return Fire is hilarious, but I mean, I personally think return fire to that. Now that people know that that's a thing, you're just not going to shoot my Fusiliers because they're just going to shoot you back. Fine, but the one that I almost feel like I need to have Fusiliers and a human hero for is suppressive fire, because there's a battle tactic that is built around being able to do suppressive fire. So I mean, just denying, not taking Fusiliers and not being able to use suppressive fire is just denying the fact that I can't take one of my book battle tactics. And quite frankly, if you have those, it, if you time it right and when you choose it right, it could be easy enough to do. Where the battle tactics in the GHB aren't necessarily the most easy thing to do anymore. Something that is relatively easy or fine, I think you can't. I don't think you can ignore it.
I think for me at least, I like the idea of suppressive fire, as you've mentioned. And even, this might be, especially if points change, over time, maybe the Great Cannon might be a nice little addition to suppressive fire. Um, Even engage the foe. If you're someone who's thinking about taking the new knights, you might, and there's some really cool 1-2 punch combinations as well between the marshal and the knights.
Hmm.
Engage the foe's not a bad little one, getting +1 attack in melee. They've obviously got a good weapon profile. They've also got, like, that one's worth considering, especially when you add in the speed, the durability, and their
Well,
sick models.
that one's great because that one also lets your Cavaliers be a very good alpha strike unit, because in Misthoven, with the movement shenanigans, if you have the horse dude, because he allows rerolling charges, and then you just issue that order where your horses get extra attack. So they're going to be 3 attacks apiece, neg 2 run 2 damage apiece on the charge. Gross, right? I mean, that's going to hurt a lot of things too. Where that can clean up some screens. Uh, that'll throw a wrench. And again, they're a 3-up save Cavalier army, or
Yeah.
Cavalier unit. They're beefy boys too. So yeah, they're great.
Great way to pin your opponent down with some good armor and durability, while the rest of your force advances almost like in that layer of an army. But you've got a couple of command traits and artifacts. Assuming you had nothing elfy to talk about, I think, I mean, we can get into the weeds, but I think for me, I'm hearing some of these things are very obvious. I guess it
Yeah.
depends on how and what, but more importantly, you've been talking a lot about why. Why do I put this into my army? And if it's from a match play perspective, and if you love, I don't know, a particular unit, you run it. I'm not saying it's not cool, but if you're trying to get the most out of this for a tournament, you probably want to build out combinations, synergies, and efficiencies. And you're either going to lean into the strengths of the Duardin, or you are trying to mitigate some of the gaps in it. So it could be magic, it could be speed, it could be whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? The range of shooting. You got your enhancements. Is there a command trait or command traits that stand out for you in your builds? And if so, why? And who do they go on?
Yeah, so I mean, you're master of the ancient lore. I mean, as the person that was talking about the elves said, I mean, more priests is always good, or more abilities to get a prayer off is always good. Um, that just allows you to open up having a curse on your warden king if you want, or you just give one of your rune lords an extra prayer, which again is fantastic. So I think that would probably be my go-to. But that doesn't mean that your of muddy of lineage isn't terrible, um, because that gives you the fight first, where that's where the warden king can open up your everything strikes last, and he fights first, so he's allowing things to do things to you before you can even think, right? So that's great. Again, for me, that just gives my warden king how I want the warden king, how I thought the warden king should always have played. You get him in the thick of things and you can do work, and I love it.
You do have
um
to get into an enemy hero, I will call out,
yeah.
because, obviously, if you go into screens and chaff, you don't get any benefit, but if you can get that Warden King into a enemy hero, awesome. Strike first. There's obviously the triggers. We talked about the Fearless Leader off the back of that. What
Yeah,
about
so
in
I sorry, I think I've mentioned that one specifically for me is because in my meta, we do have a lot of guys that run Corn, which is a lot of bloodthirsters. So is going to hurt some bloodthirsters. So,
Yeah, great,
right.
great.
So,
I'm seeing also a lot of like, there's a lot because especially with bounty hunters now disappearing, you are seeing waves more of troops. People are bringing out, lots and lots of troops. So
mhm,
obviously it depends. It's a meta pick, but I think for me, like Master of Ancient Lore is probably the number one there.
100%.
Insurmountable Resilience. I'm like,
We
nah.
just don't have the wound pool for that to make sense, right? I mean, our heroes are 6 wounds, right? So I would honestly, I would rather just put heal on a rune lord and go that route to heal something rather than uh yeah, it's just I don't see an area where I would ever take that just because we don't have the wound pool for that to kind of, right?
Hell, I'd rather pay for Emerald Life Swarm. I think if I've got one resource, which is a command trait, I get one of them. I just think the other two are probably stronger choices.
100%. Yep. And like you said, a master of the ancient lore is probably the one that you're going to see 95% of the time.
Yeah, and there's some good universal prayers as well as we'll get into it. You've also got a prayer law for cities, so the
Mhm.
dwarves have a prayer law. What about your artifacts? You talked about the pile driver, so it's not just a wrestling term. There is actually a artifact called the pile driver gauntlets. There's also the heavy metal ingot and the book of grudges. So if you're going to rank them from 1 to 3, where is my choices going?
Uh, Probably because I've talked about it so much. I think you've already kind of estimated that the pile driver gauntlets is my number one. I just think the ability to make things fight last is very strong. Granted, it's on a 4+, but I would take that gamble all day long, and it's not a once per battle. It's something that happens in combat phase, every combat phase. Um, Book of Grudges is fine. +1 to hit is generally not a bad thing to have, but again, a 4+. So doing that on a 4+ is just meh. And the ingot is fine. Again, it's just yeah. I mean, I don't see where I would ever take the ingot, to be honest with you, just because I just think the pile driver gauntlets on a Warden King is just in my opinion too good, or potentially too good. Like the upside of having that is better in my opinion. But I
I
can
want you to
see
talk.
where people would take it and it'd be fine.
I want you to talk about the benefits in a second, but I want to call out that the reason that the heavy metal ingot is not as strong as it probably would, because when you read the first part of the sentence, you're like, oh, ethereal lord on zombie dragon. Oh, night haunt. How pain in the backside it is to take down a night haunt army when they ignore my rend. But it's the other part where it says that the bearer can't move in the same turn. So if
Yep.
it's in combat, awesome. You can be unrendable in combat. Maybe countercharge with that Warden King, 3-up save, you ignore rend. Amazing. But until you can't move. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And then you're right. Like the pile driver gauntlet is fascinating, but why is it so valuable to you? Like it is a 4-up. So it's a 50-50 chance you're going to fail it.
It's a 4-up, but it's an aura, albeit a small aura on a small base. But again, if you position properly, where you do make that 4+, if you have have him in the middle of multiple enemy units that are within range of that 3, being able to make all of that fight last on a 50% is nasty if it happens.
Cool. So just to clarify, when you say bubble, we are talking about each enemy unit that's within 3 inches of the bearer of the pile driver gauntlets. You roll a dice. So if you've got really smart play and you're able to move your Warden King, Rune Lord, whoever it is, into 2 or more units, probably
Mhm.
2 is probably the maximum you're probably really going to get into most cases. Um, on a 4+, they're going to strike last. If you're really lucky, they both strike last. If you suck or you're unlucky, you're none of them, but on average, at least one of the two. So
Yeah.
uh, think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I think I said earlier that it was one dice. I don't want it to get misconstrued that it was one dice and then it just happens and all of that happens. It's one dice, 1d6 for every unit within 3. I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah,
because I think I said it in a weird way. So yeah.
it's all good. It's all good. So I think that the value is there, right? Because it means you
Yep.
get to do more damage. We talked earlier about the Warden King and Fearless Leader being able to strike, and then another unit strikes. So you get multiple attacks. Hopefully, bring down that enemy unit, especially one might be worth sacrificing that hero in order to get a maximum volume, especially if like you've shot at them with Iron Drakes and you've brought their
Yep.
profile down significantly.
Yeah, and the reason why I would do that one over Book of Grudges, because Book of Grudges is you pick one enemy unit that's visible within range, and then you get your +1. Where the Pile Driver Gauntlet is potential to be multiple units. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. What about we're not going to talk command traits because you're probably not going to take a human general. That's like that'll go in your Book of Grudges. If you do that, naughty, naughty. And I think, to be honest with you, like they're pretty obvious. So
Mhm.
depending on what you want, but if you were going to take a mixed force, whether you got some elves in the mix or the humans in the mix, any of these artifacts stand out for you if you took a human hero?
Yeah. So like what I've talked about, I would probably run a block of Fusiliers with the hero in there. So I would throw the macroscope on there just to give +3 range on your Fusilier weapons. But I mean, if you're running your cavalry alongside of rather than the Fusiliers, you're running some cavalry for speed and Alpha Strike. I wouldn't hate putting the Warhammer on a one of your what is it, generals on
Yeah,
steed,
the
marshals on the
marshal.
steed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate putting it on that because he's yep, that he hits pretty hard on the charge too, and then adding the damage to that, it's great. And then again, like we talked about, there's that the synergies between them where he fights and another unit of cavaliers fight. So I mean, that's two things that'll hit fairly hard on a charge. I think those would be the two that I would take if I'm running mostly dwarves, and then you're supplementing humans in there for other things. I
I
think
would
those are the
stand
ones that
by
I would
that.
take.
Yeah, I would stand by that 100%. They're probably the two most popular, at least if I'm going outside of like a full human build. I mean, the Grimoire might be useful, but probably not. I'd probably rather the two that you just chose. What about from an elf side? So elves don't have nearly as many options as the humans. They do have three artifacts.
Anklet.
Yeah. So
That's. I mean, honestly, that's the one. I mean, the elf video that you guys talked about it. It's just the anklets is the one. It's the one. 100%. So
yeah, adding 6 inches to the spell cast for the bearer, if it's either wholly on terrain or it's contesting an objective, both scenarios that are, you can almost guarantee that every game, like whether
mhm.
you deploy it on an objective, then you move on to a terrain feature or another objective. Yeah, getting plus 6 inches is incredible, whether it is to get a Mystic Shield off, whether it is to get one of the law spells off or the War Scroll spell. Yeah, every day of the week, that's the choice.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, there's so much terrain, and I feel like this GHB, there's so many objectives, right?
Mm.
I think that's if you're not doing any one of those things, you're just probably playing the one mission where you don't want to score points until later on in the game because you want to be the one to blow up the objectives. But yeah,
Or your enemy has the was it Slaughter of Sorcery, and you're just trying to hide your wizard away from your
yeah,
enemy. But also that getting plus 6 inches is actually a helpful one because you can kind of do more damage from afar and keep
exactly.
it out of harm's way. So there you go, nice little way to deny your opponent their grand strat.
Mhm.
What about the Rune Lord priests? Now the prayers, because when I spoke to my two other guests, for us, we didn't see a lot of value of bringing in a Rune Lord into our elf build or our human build. And mostly because we're probably not taking enough Duardin units to make it valuable. But if I've got a mostly Duardin, 60% or more type of army, 60 or more percent Duardin army, that is, how do you look at these prayers and how would you rank them and what comes to mind here?
I love Rune of Oath and Steel. Again, you guys hit it on the head. If you're not taking dwarves, you do not care about these prayers because they only affect dwarves, right?
Hmm.
But if you're bringing dwarves, Rune of Oath and Steel was fantastic because there's your Frostheart Phoenix that we miss. There it is, right there in a prayer that you can't unbind, right? Um, -1 to wound anywhere in the game is very powerful because there's a lot of things out there that have they wound on twos. Well, that's fine, but I think -1 to wound is probably quietly one of the more powerful debuffs you can have in the game, in my opinion.
Would you
Uh,
put that on like a Longbeard unit and give them the 4-up ward if in your enemy's turn, like embrace that embrace that like that shield wall.
Yep.
-1 to wound, fight last, and 4-up ward.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you when you start stacking all that stuff, the -1 to wound is great, and then your 4-up ward, that unit isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You'll lose a couple, but I mean, like I said, -1 to wound is massive in my opinion. I love -1 to wound anything in the game. I Rune of Wrath and Ruin, truthfully, I don't care for it. I just think the secondary ability to go off. I think that's just way too swingy because I think you need to succeed. You need to roll
3.
three five pluses on 6 dice. Odds are like your math, it just isn't happening, right? So the
Mm.
secondary of that, so you're going to do a couple mortal wounds here or there. Fine, mortal wounds aren't bad, but I would take, if I only had one rune lord or a couple rune lords, one of them will always take curse. I think curse is just amazing. And then oath and steel is fantastic. And then unfaltering aim, +1 to hit on missile weapons. It's good. It's fine. That would be my second choice. I don't think I would take Wrath and Ruin often, if ever, just because that secondary just won't happen as much. So
Would you take more than one Rune Lord / the command trait that allowed your general to be a priest?
yes. So if I'm going full dwarves, which in one of the lists that I did make a 100% dwarf list. I mean, you can only prayer once, right? So I think having curse is amazing. The rune lords war scroll prayer, you want to get that off because that gives another rend to melee. So then your hammers on counter charge, or your even your iron breakers on counter charge, or it could be potentially -2 rend, because it's only in melee now, right? So it's not a prayer that affects your iron drakes anymore. They've shifted it to be combat oriented, and then you want another one for oath and steel. So there's 3 solid prayers that you want to get off, and I think 3 rune lords is actually uh, a good argument to have, because and they're also hard to shoot, and honestly, that's 3 unbinds too. So
And what's really cool, if you are building around your Iron Drakes, you either can use a command point to get +1 to hit, you can use this prayer to get +1 to hit, or if you're trying to get around Lookout Sir with the -1, you can still, because this would even still work on, what's it called? Bloody Unleash Hell.
yeah.
Because it's not a shooting phase, it's just missile weapons. So that would counteract an Unleash Hell where you can't do an all-out attack in that particular phase. So that would bring you back to your either base of 3, or in a lot of cases, you'd be able to mitigate it and put them hitting on 2s. So it's not too bad.
No, it's
Not too
it's
bad.
great. Like I said, it's great if you have the Iron Drakes in there. It's fine, and that's where you have your the command trait. You would throw that one as a secondary prayer and go, yeah, I'm okay where I'm at in the game, on the board state. I'd rather have the +1 to hit than the -1 to wound because maybe I'm not getting in combat anytime soon, right? So the +1 to hit, fantastic.
Assuming you took some elves in your list, actually, first off, do any of these spells stand out from you from the elf side that you would consider?
Blades is the best spell in the game. Period.
Tenebral Blades.
Yep. It is the best spell in the game. When I played my what I thought was a joke list when I played my Anvil Guard. I used that. Arguably, I think that spell, in my opinion, got a bit of a nerf. Um, I can see the argument both ways, but in my opinion, I think it took a bit of a nerf simply because it only affects melee weapons, which is fine. It's fine, but you have to pick one friendly unit, and then that unit can get -1 or not -1, sorry, that makes your save dash in, in
Yep.
in combat. Fine, it's still amazing and it's still the best spell in the game. But what it was before was you cast it through portal on an enemy unit, then any attacks that go into that turns off the save. So then your giant block of 30 dark shards, bye,
Or your Gyrocopter, which is
or your gyrocopter. Yeah, you're right.
so if we are taking an elf unit, because this you have to put it on a Cities of Sigmar elf unit, so we need to take a sorceress on foot or a sorceress on dragon
You're gonna
to
take
cast.
sorcerers on foot. Yep.
Yeah, yes. I'm sorry, Sorceress on Black Dragon. One edition, you'll actually be good. Maybe when Malarian comes down and gives you a save greater than 5 us up on a dragon. I know she's scantily
So
clad,
silly.
but like surely 90% of her saves are being protected by dragon scale. But
Yeah.
anyway, what's the elf unit that you would take to absorb this benefit?
Yeah, so I see the benefit. Everyone's talking executioners, just because the +2, or yeah, the 2 damage. That is great on executioners. Don't get me wrong. I can see, in my opinion, I think you get more use out of Blackguard, just because it also gives your sorceress the 4+ ward and themselves the 4+ ward, and they are 2-inch reach on 25 mil bases. So you will be fighting in 3 ranks, as opposed to. So, I mean, I personally think the damage will equal out, because you only fight in 2 ranks on your executioners, because they're only 1-inch reach blades, and you'll get more attacks out of your blackguard. And your sorceress has a 4+ ward, so she's harder to snipe with spells.
My choice would have been Drakespawn Knights, I think.
Oh, they're great too. Yeah,
I would have
Drake
gone
Spawn Knights are
Drakespawn
great.
Knights because, especially if you're not going to take the Cavaliers, you could still get a nice little movement. They are mounted. They do slap, especially when they get into combat. So, and being an elf unit, that could be another option. There's a couple of options. You could take some chariots. There's a whole bunch of things depending
I mean,
on.
you could do chariots. I mean, black just that spell alone makes Black Arc Corsair stonks go way up, because it's just the weight of attacks that they have. But I think if you're just going to take one unit and a sorceress, I would take Blackguard. That's my thing, simply because my playstyle. If I've played hardcore Phoenix Guard for so long, so I would just play them like Phoenix Guard.
Yeah, basically the play that's happening here, right, is once I send my Drakespawn out into the wilderness to be free, my sorceress has nobody else to, so I need to get work from her elsewhere. But to your point, if you're bringing like Blackguard or Executioners, there's this little bubble and power pair that's moving up the board. So it depends on what you're looking for, but I think we've presented you with a couple of options.
Mhm.
This is one that I really want to unpack. So the humans get a whole bunch of spells. Your battle mage no longer has a choice of 8 spells. It's now completely changed. Wild form no longer gives you +2 to run and charge. But there are some really interesting spells here. As a Duardin player, you're not taking many spells. I imagine, especially if you're putting a lot of heroes with your Warden Kings and your Rune Lords and things like that. But if you are taking a wizard, whether you're getting an extra spell from Warlord or Command Entourage, or if you're going to add multiple wizards, what are the spells that stand out for you?
I mean, Miasma's good. Miasma's very good. I don't know if the other guys talked about it. To be honest with you, I can't remember, because they're like two and a
We
half hour
didn't
long
talk as
videos.
much about mystifying miasma because if you look at some of them, right, fireball's pretty obvious. Fierce protection stands out really well. Transmutation of lead works really well. I think mystifying miasma just kind of got like it's good, but maybe not as good as the others. But if you've got some science or some tech, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I mean, like, it's nerfing, especially in an army where I'm already slow. If I can slow you down at range of 24, I mean, it just gives me more time to get into position. It's just, I keep, honestly, I just think back constantly to the now obviously it was way worse, but nerfing charge with the Demon Prince of Corn, right? It's just any way to nerf a charge coming in on me, so -2 to charge. I mean, yeah, if you're within 3, that becomes a 5. So it's still an easy-ish charge to make, but it's much harder. Uh, yeah, I just nerfing movement. I love. Faw's protection only affects humans, so that's super unfortunate. Most of the stuff that buffs only affects humans.
Yeah. Can I make one more call out with mystifying miasma that maybe people don't quite connect the dots just yet? You talked about the example, right? It's a 3-inch charge you've now turned into 5 potentially, like just hypothetically. Add the redeploy, which could be an extra 1 to 6.
Mhm.
That when you add a redeploy can be a real game changer. And when you're subtracting 2 from the charge, you are forcing them to either use a command point or they fail it completely because they've already wasted it elsewhere, or you make the charge near impossible to hit. So
Yeah.
there is some good science there. I just wanted to highlight that particular part.
And like the unit can't run, right? So I mean that will hurt. And you've also got to keep in mind that a base is a 24-inch range spell, but the glow up, in my opinion, the glow up of your battle mages is there's one of his I mean, they're artifacts technically, or one of his little things. You get to add range to that as well. So that's now a very long range spell where they're like, oh, there's a fast unit that can run and charge. Well, you can't. I'm not going to let you run and charge. So you know your Nurgle flies that heavily that rely on the run and charge or whatever, or even just
The 6, yeah, they get this
yeah,
6-inch free move.
free move and all that crap, but that's fine. Or your Bliss Barb archers that rely heavily on run and shoot can't run, right? I mean, they still have decent range, but I mean, taking away run on things that have run and something is always great. And then also, again, like you said, the redeploy and the negatives to charge, nasty. So I love miasma. Fire again, yeah, fireball is great. Transmutation of lead is great, but a lot of the other stuff sadly only affect, like the buffing ones only affect humans, so it doesn't
If you
really do much for me.
if you were taking the new knights, like getting wild form to give a 3d6 charge and a charge of 18, that's an incredible threat. That's an
Hmm.
incredible threat. And you know what? If you wanted to double down on that, you could then put fierce protection on them as well to have a 3-up unrendable save. That who's now charging 3d6. Like
Yep,
that's
that just relies on me bringing humans, which in my cases I will. So yes, I will take those. But if you're running nothing but dwarves and then one caster or two casters in there to give you Mystic Shield and something else, uh, Miasma is my choice. So yeah,
yeah. Alternatively, I would say Fireball. It just does what it says on the box, right? You know,
it
you roll
hurts.
a dice for every model in the unit, especially as there's more hordes. You know, you got your gits, you've got your zombies, you've got beasts of chaos, you've got a lot of hordes happening right now. You could just do a bunch of mortal wounds. Who, yeah, that's not bad,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
then
18 inches.
18 inches, and then you pair that off with honestly, you could bring a sorceress with anklet, and then you could bring this is just
No,
weird
no, no,
weird
no,
tech,
no,
but no, we're not gonna do it.
no,
But
no. Well,
you got your the buffs to range on a lot of those spells where you got Grave Tide for horde clearing. You've got Grave Tide and you got fireballs. So
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, couldn't use anklet and fireball because this is obviously human, and anklet is for elves. But yeah, there's a couple of
you could bring
options
a
to.
battle. You could bring the battle mage for one of their, because they get a thing that allows you to get range on the spells as well in their war scroll. But yeah, there's tech in there where you can bring two cheap wizards and do fine. So unless I'm reading
I don't think it's an artifact unless it's
the
a
trinket,
unless
it's a
it's
trinket. Sorry, it's called a trinket. One of the trinkets that they get. It gives you +6 to the range of spells cast by this unit.
okay.
It's the Realm Stone Orb.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right. Um, Sub factions. Let's talk
Hmm.
sub factions. Uh, anyone stand out for you on this sheet? So there's 11 options. You've got your there's 5 more to talk about. On screen right now is your Hammerhall Akshi, your Gairan, your Hammerhall Gairan, Living City, Greywater Fastness, Hallow Heart, Tempest Eye. We've
Hmm.
already talked a little bit about Greywater, but let's talk about like what stands out for you here and why.
So there's one that, in my opinion, is great for dwarves, and that's Living City. If you're going to go heavily into Iron Drakes, you just yeet them up, or not yeet them up the board, but I mean you deploy them up the board, or you could even do that with any of the dwarf units and just have them stick in. You can pair them up. You can jump up a unit of Iron Breakers, a big blob of Iron Breakers, depending on where the objectives lie, where you could put them on an objective with the hero, issue the order in the combat phase, and give them a +1 ward right away. It's very good. It's just a way of of using movement shenanigans to mitigate the slow moving, stumpy legs that we have. In a negative way, Tempest Eye, man, I think they just did Tempest Eye dirty. To be honest with you, um, retreat and shoot is fine, but I mean, there was so much cool things that they could have done with Tempest Eye, in my opinion. They could have made this. yeah, I don't know, retreat and shoot, especially when you're running Iron Drakes. Retreat and shoot, you're moving, so you're losing the one shot. So I might as well just stay in combat. Um, it's rough. I think it's rough. Hollow Heart, it was, however, if I would have played it another way, I love Hollow Heart. I've always loved Hollow Heart. That's my jam. You and I have talked about this in length. It's a great casting one. Um, but I think the other one is better. Hammerhall Aksha is good. 2 orders is fine. Hammerhall Gyra doesn't really affect us, so it's good for other stuff. And Greywater Fastness is fantastic if you're running more than 1 unit of Iron Drakes.
I was just quickly looking at the gyrocopters and the gyro bombers war scroll to see if there's any secret jank tech that I could possibly do with Tempest Eye and gyrocopters and gyro bombers. Because I'm like, surely there's a list build here that makes sense, right? Because there's no coalition, so I can't do 1 in 4 carriage and overlords. So I must take it within my ally pool, which is 400 points in a traditional match play battle. So if I'm doing 400 points, that doesn't get me enough to I can take like 1 or 2 gun haulers. I can take a
You can take a
frigate.
frigate with
Take a
1 unit
frigate.
of Arcanaut Company in the frigate. And there's your speed, right? So you could retreat over things because they have the speed. I think it benefits more if you're bringing KO, just because they have the speed to let that
Yeah.
retreat be something. But a 4-inch retreat is neat.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to work out like, is there any secret tech that I'm not seeing? And even like Tempest Eye, when you looked at that particular rule in the old book, it was mostly built around Pistolies and Outriders that you can't take anymore because they're legend. So I'm personally struggling to see the benefits of Tempest Eye. Chat, if you see and have some secret source that we're missing, please let me know. But I'm not
Yeah.
seeing it in Tempest Eye, which is a shame because it was my 2 cities. I'd run Hallowheart and Tempest Eye with the 2 cities I would always run. And I'm not seeing Tempest Eye. I don't see it coming to life just yet.
Yeah, like I said, I think it only heavily benefits your KO if you do bring your KO. But again, we only have 400 points to work with, so that's very limited. But I think
I
there are shenanigans of, you get them stuck into combat, and then you can retreat over and then get them over somewhere and still shoot. But I don't know. I am not seeing it. And again, I mean, we know that there's going to be somebody out there that makes it work, probably, and then good on them. And I'd love to see it. I just don't currently right now in the state of the book.
Yeah, I would probably need something a little different. And like if I'm choosing a sub faction, I would go Living City over Tempest Eye every day of the week.
Hmm.
Hello Heart makes sense. It's about wizards. You're probably not taking a lot of wizards in your Duardin list anyway, so it might be a mute point. Greywater, pretty obvious. You can do a bunch of all-out attacks. If you're rolling multiple units of Iron Drakes, which traditionally you build 1 big block as opposed to multiple units.
Yep.
If you could issue multiple, or if you're going to take like the ogre Fusilier guy,
Fistula
or
Commander or whatever he is. Yeah.
yeah, or you can take some great cannons to support your Iron Drakes. That might work, but probably right now, maybe not as beneficial, especially with the +1 to hit prayer as well.
Yeah, like when we see the, because I know what's happening. I think once the points increase of the Fusiliers happens, I think that's going to open up Grey Water Fastness quite a bit. Simply because the cannons hitting on 4s is eesh. So being able to issue all out attack on multiple cannons if you do bring them is very good in my opinion. So yeah.
Look, Fusiliers might not go up because it does take extra points, and you do need to see other units go up. So I'm not 100%. Like I think something like the Warforger should definitely go up. When you compare it to its counterpart, the Battle Mage, and it just has so many more options. But I think the Great Cannon, for example, could go down, and I think it's too expensive right now. But if it got into the right sweet spot, yeah, your Iron Drakes could be supported by 1 or 2 cannons,
Yep.
and that's where Gravewater Fastness gets unlocked. Because
No, you're
right
100%
now,
right. Yeah.
it's too expensive. It's the same price as Fusiliers, which is why I'm always going to go Fusiliers over a Great Cannon. There's just not enough
Oomph.
value in a
Yeah.
cannon.
No, you're right.
Ham-
100%.
Hammerhall Aksha doesn't feel like for you get a lot of benefits. Like, yeah, you can issue 2 orders, but I feel like your options are so restrictive that maybe you can't take as many benefits from the Hammerhall Aksha. And I'm not running currently. I'm not going to run Aventus Firestrike until it gets a revisit in Stormcast Eternals book million.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for us.
Yeah, I mean, like I can see situationally where actually it would be good, where you have your Warden King and a couple units that are kind of off on their own, beating the crap out of things. Where then your Warden King can issue the Shield Wall in enemy combat, and then he can issue now. And then if you clean up your whoever you are in the enemy combat, then the movement shenanigans he's out there, he can issue it. But honestly, I think for cities as a whole, period, I think you're just going to see them running as a castle anyways. So Hammerhall actually is fine. It's fine. Like it's not terrible. It's just fine. And they're just better, right? So
Hammerhall Gyra is good because you can have an extra reinforced unit, which is really helpful, but you don't get the benefits of the Bravery 10 for when you've got 10 or more models. So less value there.
yeah, but I mean, we're already base bravery 8 on a lot of our units. So I mean, like 10 is always amazing. Don't get
10
me
is,
wrong.
10 is always better.
10 is always better, but I mean, it's not the end of the world.
No, like obviously, especially when you apply, was it the Longbeards that then, when they run on a 4-up, they come back, they don't run. Like if you could have a bravery 10 and then like it just that would
Yeah.
allow you to do a lot of battle
Oh,
shock
that's just
stuff,
gross. You're right. It's gross.
but
100%
but
it's
you
gross.
don't have it. So like it's
Yeah, it's a moot point.
forget about it. Couple of others, and I know we've talked Misthaven a little bit. I want to pause it. Let's not talk Misthaven yet. Let's talk
Yep.
the others, right? So you got Settlers Gain, Wizardy. You got Excelsius, which is monstery, cavalry, kind of humany type ones. Lethus is priesty, and then you got Vindicarum, my personal favorite, which is flagellant. So talk about those four first, then we'll get to your spice.
Yeah, so I mean, Lethus is cool just because that prayer is amazing. Turning off words anywhere is always a fun time. It's just unfortunate that I want to word this. Yeah, see, the way it's written right now, I think it's fairly confusing because I think it is only human heroes that can gain that prayer. I could be reading it in a weird way that people aren't, but it's only specifically mentioning hero and Stormcast Eternal priests, and they know the following prayer in addition to the prayers that they
Yeah,
already
yeah,
know.
yeah, because it
So
says Lethus human hero. So
yeah,
um
yeah, because
100%.
I think I've heard elsewhere on a couple of videos where people are saying like, "This is great for dwarves." It's not. This is great
No.
on your steam tank that won't die
Yeah,
because
no,
you yeet your. But
it clearly says there, Matt,
yeah,
Lethus human priest.
yeah,
And Stormcast priest. Like it's very clear. So I
doesn't
assume they
benefit
just
me
need
at all.
nah, nah. But well, would you take a Stormcast priest? Or a human wizard sorry, a human hero. So let's say, for example, we've talked a little bit about the Cavalier Marshal. If you were going to take Cavalier Marshal and take a little bit of Cavaliers, that becomes now a priest that now gets Mordar's embrace. Do we like
Um,
that?
it's not terrible. I just think if you're gonna run the cavalry stuff heavy into that, you go Excelsis. Just because the mortal wounds on the charge with Cavaliers is fun, or we're putting a pause to it, but I just think for that build, there's other cities that are better. I can see this Lethus being fun, again because priests are great, and that prayer is great, but again I think that's situational and fun. The lore behind the city is amazing, and play it if you want to have some fun and play around that lore. But I just think there's better cities.
I think less Lethus for me is if I've got a games club and there's a bully in my community, they're running a million zombies, and I want to beat that bully at a my local game store on my regular Thursday night game. Yeah, take Lethus. Would I take it to a tournament? Probably not.
Nope.
And look, when Stormcast get revisited, and you've got your Lord Relictor and your Knight Relictor, and if they get a War Scroll change, then I might reconsider this. But right now, I would pause this for competitive play and just play it more for friendly casuals.
hmm I think one that benefits from dwarves heavily is Vindicarum. Um, Rallying in combat. We want to be in combat. Um, yeah, I mean, just it takes one spike roll of a good roll of sixes to bring back a bunch of stuff that took you forever to kill, and that's pretty demoralizing when potentially four of them come back, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
So with Vindicarum, you don't get to return slain models on the 5+. Obviously, that is purely for flagellants. But yes, you're right. You've got the fight last, 4-up ward or 5-up ward, and then you don't have to worry about shenanigans of pulling out of combat to try to rally, being able to just rally, grind them, ward, shoot, countercharge, all the rend, curse. I think there's some good play for Vindicarum. I think a lot of people are sleeping on it just because they see Flagellant, but
yeah,
I
I
think
agree
you
with
make
you.
you make a good call on where this could possibly play for Duardin, and you reinforce and double reinforce a bunch of your units. This could be tough, really
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, the mind game of Vindicarum and just completely exhausting your opponent mentally, just how they are. It's just like, oh yeah, I finally got through the -1 to wound, the 3-up or even a 2-up, blah blah blah, and then oh crap, 4 just came back, and that's like recursion. That's why I mean recursion is just never fun, but thankfully it's still a 6+. If this was any better than that, I think that would be nasty. But I like where it is.
I will my parting comment is this is a very Nurgle play style. Obviously, it's not Nurgle and it's not doing disease tokens, but it's that grindy kind of regenerative type of debuffy type army. So and if I probably did Vindicarum, I'd probably mostly run Duardin. I probably
Mhm.
wouldn't go too much outside of it. Settler's Gain is pretty obvious. It's a bunch for wizards. You get +1 to cast, and it helps you get Lumineth into your build if you want to get some extra boosts. Let's ignore that. We're dwarves. We don't need the help of Lumineth, and we don't need the
Nope,
help of the wizards.
we don't want it. Yeah. So the last one, which is I think the All Star. I think for every race, to be honest with you, Misthoven is just great. It's taken what made corn nasty and it's just put it in cities with limitations. It's not as broken as corn. Yes, we can still get into combat with it, but if you're doing it on foot soldiers or foot heroes, um, you'll never actually roll that to get into combat because you have to be outside of 12. So even if you roll 6 uh, to the d6, you'll never be able to move into combat with your foot slogging dudes. But with cavalry, there's the potential. Um, but again, you have to roll pretty high. But being able to bring things into combat in the hero phase, it can put a damper on things. But this is just movement shenanigans, uh, and I think that's what made Corn awesome. Is that one blood tithe point? I get to move things in the hero phase and move stuff around based on how you're doing it. Again, it happens in my hero phase too. But this just makes our dwarves fast, shockingly fast.
Yeah, and it's going to help you, especially in the early game when you want to get onto the board presence, and then kind of like once you're there, pin and move. But also even in the late game, as you know, the game starts to dwindle down, and you're trying to like cap an objective in your enemy territory or go 1-2 more. If you're outside of combat and you got those couple of little idiots left, you could get a D6 extra move and be able to get onto that. That's not bad.
Yeah,
There's a really good play there. And then to your point, if you want to go into something that's got a mount, that then allows you to do that 2d6. So
yep.
whether it is those cavaliers, whether it is the marshal, whether it is I think Hurricane might even be a mount if I
Hurricane
remember
was mounted.
correctly.
Yep.
There you go,
Hurricane was mounted.
the Free Guild General on Griffin, which is a very independent piece, or the Lioness. Like there's so many mounted options that you know what. Oh no, no, not
Lioness is
Lioness.
keyword.
I was about to pull myself up on that
Yeah,
because she's Hammer Hall. So yeah, I'll
yeah,
ignore rewind. But the Free Good General on Griffin and the Battle Mage on Griffin is definitely mounted
yeah.
but not
I mean,
keyworded.
again, if we want to talk glow ups, because I know we didn't talk about older units, but I just want to take a minute to say that Free Guild General on Griffin, man, double roar is nasty, but I'll leave it at that.
Look, the Free Guild General and Griffin is a great independent threat piece, and I
Yep.
think that's where you could just, even if you wanted to run like 60% or 70% dwarves, have that Free Guild General, have it as a monster, have it as a distraction kind of effects, go in and kind of get into the enemy. The double roar is nice, but it doesn't need anyone else. It doesn't need anything. You put the Sigmarite Warhammer on it, and it'll just go slap things.
Bonk. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's a beautiful hammer. But yeah, I think Misthaven and Living Cities are the ones that I think, and then as a secondary for fun and potential grossness, I think the three that dwarves will love is Living Cities, Misthaven, and Vindicarum.
Yeah, I think there's some play with Vindicarum and maybe into the Hammerhall Gyra as well, especially
Yep.
getting the extra reinforcement point. I can see some play there. The the war scroll the battalion, the war scroll battalion. I'm gonna guess that this is not very valuable to us, right? We have it's all free guildy, and for a Duardin focus, no.
Nope.
If you wanted to do mixed arms, at least 50% humans, maybe, but it's the feeling that I've been getting from my other guests is it's too expensive and not enough value. Where do you stand on that one?
I'm in the same point. I'll be honest with you. I don't see anywhere where anybody would take this. I just think there's better value in the other battalions that we already have access to.
Yeah, as a human player, I wouldn't even take this right now. If it was
Yeah.
like optional two of the Warhawks, maybe, but like just too much forced things for me right now.
That Fusilier tower dude on an ogre, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but and then it's forcing me to take at least one of those. Eh.
Yeah, if it was optional, if there was more optional play, I think yeah. But I think
Yeah.
right now there's too much forced mandatory stuff for me to consider this one. But they got the grand strats, and there, I think, based on what I'm hearing from other people, there's probably one that stands out higher than the others. But where are you standing on? And obviously, I'm going to ignore the first one because I hate the first one. If anyone's heard me already talk about this, I hate anything that forces me to take battle tactics specific to my book, as opposed to options in the General's Handbook. So I'm just going to ignore that exemplar of the Academy Marshal.
Yep. Yep. I
Doesn't
yeah. I completely agree. And with my dwarf hat on, this one I would never be able to do because there's depending like if I'm going 100% dwarves, I literally can't do half of those. So no, no.
I hate it. I hate it. So, all right, so let's assume that's gone because it doesn't
Yeah.
live in our, doesn't exist. What are the other three? Is there any that kind of stand out for you, or are you more likely to go with the seasonal general's handbook and the current one, GBH23?
I love the banners one. It's just there's so many because it's based on how many banners are within range of the thing. If you double reinforce, there's three banners right there, and then you can play with. I will the banners will be the last one I pull. Um, Hold the high ground. I think if you have the player pack in your hand before you actually submit your list, which will never happen, in some cases, that one is just it's fine in some battle plans that want you to be in the middle of the board, but there's so many of them where objectives are just everywhere. I think especially for I mean, that would be the easiest for dwarves to do given the opportunity because they just don't die. So
Yeah.
fine, there you go. But banners is easier to get. Um, and was it the reclaim one? Nah, I mean, nah. I think if you're looking at the grand strategies in this book, banners I think is what you're going to take for most of your lists. Period. I think.
Yeah, I would say that Reclaim for Sigma may be in a Living City list. But outside of a Living City list, I think Banners Held High is the number one. Even in a Living Cities, I would say Banners Held High. But if you had a very interesting, non-bannery focused army, maybe you're running like lots of gyrocopters or some other type of things that don't have a lot of banners, then yeah, maybe Reclaim for Sigma. But in your traditional Duardin build, it's hard to be in all four quarters. And
Yeah, I mean, like if you're again, you're right. I mean, if you're running gyro, I think it's doable. If you're running gyros and your opponent doesn't have shooting, you just fly your little gyros around, and then you have your cogsmith is just going to be back corner anyways. But yeah,
But they're not survivable. Like they're 4 or 5 wounds. Like you got to keep them alive for the full 5 battle rounds. So it might sound better in theory, but
it's
yeah, I
hard.
think banners is clear. They're probably the clear winner.
Yep, banners, 100%.
You said that you can't if without humans or without elves, you can't do all of these battle tactics because you're right. Like there's Free Guild Command Corp here, there is Free Guild Duardin, there's Free Guild Elf, there is Suppressive Fire, which is off the back of a human keyword order. So let's talk just really briefly on Iron Might. Do you like it as a Duardin player? And then secondly, of the others, do any of these make you want to choose units outside of Duardin to get Black Powder Bombardment or raise the banner or whatever?
So black powder bombardment, if you're going heavy into iron drakes, it's doable. I just don't know if you're going to go heavy into iron drakes, but it is doable. Iron might, I think chosen at the right time, I think this can be easily done because we're just durable enough. Because we just have to fight. 3 units have to fight, and no units have to be wiped out. I think they're durable enough where if it's an early combat, and they're just in your front lines. I think that's just it's easily doable because they just don't die. So
Mm.
I think that's a great battle tactic to have to pick just as the combat is happening. Um, Mount the charge. Sadly, I mean, I don't know if anybody's. I know people know it, but I mean, new to the game, you would assume that gyrocopters and gyrobombers, the helicopters, and mount. It is not, sadly. So you can't do it with 100% dwarf army. You got to bring in, but there's where your Drake spawn knights are fun, or your cavalier. But your Drake spawn knights, I believe, are cheaper. So if you're hurting for points, having a couple units of those is great. But yeah, I think a lot of these uh, we have to bring outside influences in. It's just super unfortunate because dwarves, I feel there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of hurdles we got to jump over for things to get done. And we're dwarves; we have little legs. Jumping over hurdles is hard for us. So don't let us we don't need to be having to do that. But and this is where I said dwarves. There's dwarf units that are amazing and like your soupy. And if that is the case, then I think it's easy enough to get 3 units of dwarves in Iron Might because your Iron Breakers are cheap enough. So you can add that in there, but um, yeah, these are hard for full dwarf army. A lot of them.
I think, yeah, I think the key for me is either if I'm going full or mostly dwarf, that's cool. I just need to look at my general's handbook and say, right, how do I score 5 or more battle tactics? Because I want to have options. Sometimes some options are just too hard in particular points. But how do I score those 5 battle tactics if I'm full Duardin, knowing that I really only got 1 or 2 options from my book? Then if I'm really struggling there, I don't have any wizards to cast magical dominance. I'm not really feeling it with bait and trap, or there's some things that are just too hard for me. What do I need to lean into outside of Duardin to get, can I do strike without warning if I bring in some elf units? Can I look into bringing in a unit of Fusiliers to do suppressive fire? What is it that do I bring in a free guild command corp that has no other benefit other than just capturing that first battle tactic?
Hmm.
Like that's a consideration for you Duardin players to think, whether you want to go full Duardin 60 to 70% or a 50-50 split between humans and elves or Duardin or whatever your favorite choice is. But I think
Exactly.
human has more options. Humans bring more to the table. There are more orders, there are more abilities, there are more units. you know a human Duardin combination is probably the most likely.
Yep, I agree, 100%.
You don't have to agree with me. Like I just like they're just my thoughts. Like
No, but I
um
mean they are very good thoughts, and they're yeah, they're perfect. Honestly, um, super. It's just
So,
as I think the trend for this book is they want you to go into your humans and your soup, but there's play.
and look, I'll say as a Gits player as well. So I play Gloomspite Gits. I've been playing them for a long time as well. In the old Gloomspite Gits book, it was focusing you very on like heavy trogs, heavy squigs. Like it was very much a one list build, and it struggled a lot. Like you notice Gits for a long time didn't do that well because you were relying on like one or two golden units to like lift you above. And now you're starting to see a lot more list diversity where you're seeing mixes of goblins and trogs, or you're seeing trogs and squigs, or spiders and trogs, and you're seeing a lot of really interesting combinations and list building as you unpack it. And I think that's the key of cities. Cities are going to be, you want to do 100% spiders, do it, but
Hmm.
you can get a lot more value out of a combination. But here is your first list. This is your 100% dwarf list, which I really dig. Talk to me through a little bit about what it's all about and how it works as I kind of partially choke on my own cough.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, this is basically what we've been talking about the whole time in terms of you're playing off the Warden King's pile driver gimmick. You're playing off of you're getting all the extra move from Misthoven, because I think that's super important for this build. Got 3 Rune Lords. I think I originally had like 4 in here, and then we modified it a little bit. But I think 4 was overkill. But this is your typical. I think you would see how dwarves would generally play. It's your castle. You're going to move up, but your castle is now moving up quicker than you thought because of Misthoven and your movement orders. And they're just tough to kill, right? They're just super tough to kill. Your hammers are your hammer. Ha. Your and then your Iron Drakes are your shooting, because I think you raised a good point when I initially sent this to you. I think you do need shooting in a city's list. I just wish Iron Drakes benefited a little bit more from stuff, but I mean they're still great shots. This is just, yeah, like I said, this is your castle, right? This is your slow moving castle up the board, and stuff won't die, right? So you've got your Oath of Steel, like we talked about. You do have your curse, your heal. I doubled down on Oath of Steel because I think that is just an amazing prayer. And then your Warden King as your beat stick. You could probably even swap out like a couple things where you drop that one gyrocopter, and then you can add another and a Rune Lord. You might not need 3. Add another Warden King as 2 like really tough hitting heroes, and your Warden King can be your general. I put the Rune Lord as my general just because I love Master of Ancient Lore, and having um, 2 prayers on the Rune Lord, because again he'll be the one that benefits from lookouts, or your Warden King wants to be in and amongst everything. So yeah, um, yeah, gyro bomber, gyrocopter are there for speed and decent shooting. I mean, it's not bad shooting, and those are going to help you with the tactics of what is it, surround and destroy, because they're fast enough to get to those points. But yeah, slow moving castle, double reg, so 2-drop, uh, and then you'll often get the choice because um, that with the new primal dice battalion is a thing where uh, you'll probably outdrop a lot of your opponents, especially if they have magic.
And the cool thing about a list like this, and by the way, this is by no means the list. Like, this is just an example. You can tweak it and modify it however you want to do it. You could take those gyro bombers and turn them into a unit of 3 gyrocopters. This could be a great example of a Vindicarum list. It doesn't have to be a Misthaven list. You know, this would work quite well. You've got a lot of melee focused units that you might want to double reinforce. Get some. I know you've spent your 4 reinforcement points, but maybe that's a way that you go into Hammerhall Gyra for the extra reinforcement point, or you go into Vindicarum for the rallying combat. So while this is a Misthaven list, there's a lot of interplay, and it might let you explore that. You got Fire Slayers as an ally. You've got Tempest Eye as an ally. So if you do want to keep the Duardin theme, maybe you bring in Gotrek and you try to find some points for a Gotrek, especially as
Mhm.
you're moving around with a castle and a heavy threat. Or maybe you double down on the gyrocopters. Like, there's so much interplay and so many ways you can tweak this that I don't think there is one single list.
No, and like we talked about before, I think this is one of the uh, it's been a long time coming where it actually was a hard choice for me because on initial look of this book, I thought dwarves were poop. But then I started reading a heck of a lot more into it. And you know what? They all have interweaving play that is fun, right? So on initial look, I thought long beards were doo doo, right? But then I read more into that. Oh, that battle shock thing actually isn't a terrible thing to have, right?
Mm,
And I'm willing to spend 130 points and give them great axes, and then not only are they, I will hold them back to keep that benefit of the battle shock mitigation, and also giving lookout sir to my rune lords. But it's still not a bad unit to go. I'm going to countercharge with them because I have great axes. Bonk. Or if they're with the shield, right, sword and board, then that's another unit that you throw the 5 up ward on, right? They have more play than I initially thought, and I'm hoping that this video that everyone sees is going to open eyes and maybe give dwarves another shot, because I know on initial look uh, we didn't get anything right,
yeah.
but it's still there's still something there.
And that's why we're having the conversation, because I think we've overlooked Duardin, especially because they didn't get anything new. And I think probably people are feeling like I got a whole bunch of questions that people were kind of asking me. And I think the morale is feeling a little bit low right now because the humans got all the good stuff. And you know
Yep.
what? This might get expanded in a Broken Realms or this like Dawnbringer that we're currently seeing. Who knows, in 6 to 9 months, maybe there will be a new way of Duardin being added to the mix. When Grungni comes down and finally reveals himself, who knows what gets brought into this particular book. We've seen plenty of expansions. Iron Jaws just got announced that they'll get a supplement with a bunch of new units that will be added to the book. So, but I think we're kind of also showing that you can take this list wherever you want to go, make it drop one of the battle regiments, make it a command entourage, and get two prayers. So all
Mhm.
your rune lords could have heal and curse or oath and steel, and like bring in different options depending on if you're within 9 or outside of 9.
And
And
then yeah, and then if you go that route, that's where you switch out the general and you put that on the Warden King and then make him a priest as well, right? I mean, like, look, there's a lot of play. It's just I built this one, I think, as my this might have been my like low hanging fruit of like this is all the units I'm going to take them, but I do want to show that you can take all of the units that are available, minus the Cogsmith that I don't have in here, but he's still got play, ish. But I mean, I've taken every war scroll in here except for the Cogsmith, just because
well,
I didn't have the points.
and look, if you had the reinforced gyrocopters, then maybe, but probably, I don't know, maybe even with the couple of gyrocopters slash gyro bombers, you might consider a cogsmith. But I think, it's a good framework to build out and play around with. And you might find that, you know what, I am struggling with the battle tactics, like we talked a little earlier, and it might lead you into going, well, what free guild and what elves can I possibly bring in order to help me score some of that? So I see some similar frameworks here. You've still got iron breakers, you've still got hammerers, you've got your rune lords and your gyrocopters and things like that. But you've started mixing in some free guild. You've got some war forgers, you've brought in some command corp, you've brought in some steel helms and some fusiliers. So tell me more about this mixed arms force that's combining both Duardin and human keywords.
Yeah, so this just goes back to when we were talking about the battle tactics. I just added things in that would allow me to get some of those battle tactics, like the Fusiliers example for suppressive fire, just allowing that to be available, and then pairing off the Warforger's ability of the mortal wound in addition on sixes from Free Guild Fusiliers. Then you can start reliably looking at black powder bombardment. um yeah, so I don't yeah, we didn't put the general on here, but I would have the Free Guild Marshal as my general with macroscope, just giving the range and then opening up the Fusiliers to do those two battle tactics. And then there's enough just other things in there that we can just do other things, right? The steel helms are in there solely to open up the Free Guild Fusiliers to being battle line, because then you can double reinforce them. That's why they're there instead of the another unit of Iron Breakers. But I reinforce the unit of Iron Breakers. Yeah. So the Command Corp, it's amazing, but it's also there for the battle tactic. So now you can see how this opens up for multiple battle tactics to be run. And Hoarfrost on Iron Breakers or Hammerers isn't a bad thing.
I was literally just pulling up the War Scroll to see who would benefit most from a Hoarfrost. It's actually a good question. I mean,
Iron Breakers, I think. If you just giving them rend in combat, right? Rather than the only way to get rend on them. Well, not the only way, but you could use the Rune Lord on one unit of Iron Breakers to give them rend 1, and then you can use the War Forger on the or the reinforced unit to give them potentially rend 3, on average rend 2. That makes them fun, super fun.
The Iron Breakers also work well if you need volume. So if, let's say, you go up against let's say Gits, for example, where you just need a weight of dice to take down that unit of squigs, you could bring down the wound to a 2+. So all that attack hitting on 2s, now wounding on 2s because you've Hoarfrosted them. You don't need the rend because they've got like a save of 6 or less. And you can get volume there. Or, as you said, if you need lots of attacks to go through a high armored thing, you could go rend -3. So I like that. That's a good. It's a good utility piece, depending on who you face and what you need.
Yep. And you'll notice I didn't give any of the lore, the human lore magic into the Warforges, because the only one they can take is the metal spell.
Transmutation of lead.
Yeah. Which is a great spell. I just think having Blizzard and Hoarfrost in there with extra primal dice is fine. And then they're also +1 to cast. They'll just pop their +1 to cast for themselves. So.
And that's a good call out as well, is that this particular list allows you to play into the Antorian Locuses, which is going to let you score more points in particular battle plans. It allows you to play with the primal dice a little more, and you get to be able to use Merciless Blizzard and Hoarfrost. So this might be a consideration for this particular General's Handbook. But, to your point, if you had the spare points, which you absolutely do, you could bring in one Battle Mage instead if you didn't think that, two Warforges was maybe overkill and you wanted something else that we talked about earlier with the human spell law. So again, a lot of great points. You could still cut, change, modify, bring an endless spell, tweak. Like, is there a particular other city that this might work well with? Like, if you're building around Warforges, I mean, maybe Hallowheart or
I think this is
Settlers?
where a Settler's Gain would go in. I think if you're building it, because I think the spells on the War Forgers are, because I mean you've also got the Mortal Wound one, and then you've also got Hoarfrost and Merciless Blizzard. So I mean there's 3 really solid spells there that that you would I think in most cases would want to get off. Um, I think Settler's Gain would be a good call. I also don't hate this one in Hollowheart, because we do have access to the healer, the surgeon in the Free Guild Command Corp, which can heal back the wounds that you take on a 10+ cast. So yeah, I think this actually I actually like Hollowheart now that I've kind of talked myself into it. I like Hollowheart better in this one as opposed to Settler's Gain.
Yeah, there's a couple of good options. Like, I was just having a look to see what else. And like, obviously you could tweak this, bring in some Iron Drakes, and then go into Grey Water, so they're having both the Free Guild, the Fusiliers, and the Iron Drakes. So that would be able to double down on your shooting, though it's a lot of points in shooting, a
Yeah.
lot.
It's a lot of points, but I went the route of the hammerers instead of more shooting, simply because of the Iron Might battle tactic. I want 3 dwarves to be able to fight and not die. So yeah.
There's plenty of options. I think that's the key. It's not about the right or wrong list, because right now there's FAQs coming and erratas, and points might adjust, and the meta is going to shift, and who knows what happens when these new Iron Jaws hit the table and the new Trogs hit the table and Flesh Eater Courts hit the table. So it's always this evolving meta that we write our best lists, and it's going to tweak and change along the way. And I like the framework, and I think we can modify and tweak and bring in allies. And you've got a deep ally pool,
Yep.
from, and we talked about this earlier in other discussions, whether it is bringing in the twins from Lumineth, bringing in some movement shenanigans like the Canary, who, because you don't have a lot of movement shenanigans. You could be bringing in some things from Stormcast, maybe like the auto unbind Knight Incantor, or bringing in the priest if you want to do Lethus. Like, there's just so many options that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a deep book, and I think the fact that all three of these videos have gone over 2 hours is a testament to that. Considering this one, we had the fewest amount of war scrolls to talk about, and it was still this has still been this we're still over 2 hours.
I
So
thought we would get under 2 hours with dwarves. I thought surely there's not enough in dwarves to talk about it. And I feel like we've only scratched the surface. We haven't talked about hurricanums and how, like, I do a bunch of mortal wounds to support. We haven't talked about, like, there's so many things we can talk. And this is why we've broken it up in this way. And more and more will get unpacked as we go. But I think hopefully people are getting a good idea of how the humans, the elves, and the Duardin, and how you can combine them as well. But Matt, before we wrap up, I've got some rapid fire questions from Discord that I want to ask you. Are you
let's
good?
do it. Let's do it.
All
Yeah,
right. So first one coming from Toril is what do you feel like the best city for the Duardin? They call it the Douai. It's the Duardin. Like, all right, I
that's
get
fine.
it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hands down, I think Misthoven's the one. But I think a very close second and third is Living Cities and Vindicarum, just for the reasons that we already talked about. But I mean, we're a slow army, Misthoven.
one of the other questions from him, he said like a million questions. So
So
he's
this
a
guy
he's
really
an
wants to play dwarves. Perfect.
well, Toril, I've seen him. He's a local in my community. I remember once coming to an event. He dressed up like a dwarf, like he had a beard, he had the outfit, like he is like full. He's a grumbler. Are gyro, excuse me, are gyro bombers and gyrocopters worth it now as units? And is it worth reinforcing them? And I've kind of touched on this a little bit. It hasn't been a big feature in our lists, but do I build around them, and is it worth considering?
I think they're cheap enough, especially the gyrocopter. Where if you've got, because I think there's that sweet spot of a lot of cases you do end up, and we ran into this actually when we modified the Duardin only list. Is it's actually easy to find that 80 points, right? So running one gyrocopter is fine because again, it's speed, it's a little annoyance. It can run up and grab you an objective somewhere not anywhere near you. I think they're worth it. You just gotta play them in a different way because they don't have the Anvil Guard turn off to save my guns go pew pew and kill you. But I think they're there. Um, and I think the list that we showed where we had double gyro bomber as opposed to um, what is it, three gyrocopters. I think you could easily have an argument of bringing them as a unit of three.
See, I'm thinking the current season, you got the battle tactic where you charge if two units retreat and then two units charge. This could be a great example of two bombers going in for the charge. If you pin them, if you pin a unit so you get like very little attacks going in, retreat them out, then the second wave, because of the extra movement, then you can charge in with your hammerers and things like
Mhm.
that, your longbeards. That could be a great way to score that battle tactic. So I could actually see also value having two independent threats. It actually could help you scoring the battle tactic where you need three on different board edges, like two little
Yep.
fast movements go up the front or the side, and then like this. There's
They're fine because again, I mean, you're looking at an 80-point unit, right? Where you can have them on the board edge, and honestly, in a lot of cases, I think people would just ignore them because they have a giant uh, castle of it's hard to kill moving up, and it can hit me pretty hard. So maybe the castle is your distraction Carnifex, and then your gyrocopters are zipping around getting you objectives, right? So yeah.
Big Bobo asking. He asked a couple of questions. I think we talked a lot about the Iron Drakes already, but we touched on this one, but I want to get your general feel as how do you think the dwarves are looking durability wise in all phases? And I think we've been very clear in the enemy's combat phase, we can have incredible durability. But outside of that one particular phase, how do you feel that Duardin have when it comes to durability?
I still think they're durable because you still do have that prayer that lasts until your next hero phase of -1 to wound. That's fantastic. They're a 3+ base, so I mean your all-out defense is the stocks on all-out defense is fantastic on them. I think they're durable enough to combat their slow moving. And truthfully, I don't think you want to. I mean, you have to get into combat with them for the most cases, but they're not going to be fun to fight in combat. I'll tell you that right now.
6-up ward prayer is obviously one that I
And
would
bless. Yep.
definitely, yeah, having bless as well would be something I'd want to have up my sleeve.
And I believe all priests get that,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, I mean, it's there.
Yep.
It's there. It's one of the two, right? Smite
Yeah.
and bless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Sm
you have bless in the back pocket where I mean, you still do have a 6-up ward. That's nothing to really kind of frown on, unless you're the lioness, which 6-up ward for her isn't great, but that's fine. Um, but yeah, they're durable. They're durable enough, and they're durable enough to be annoying.
All right, and to wrap things up, what's your favorite beverage of choice? And I have one more question. Then I have one more question. You can do shout outs.
Okay, cool. So, my favorite beverage of choice, I am a sour beer connoisseur. Get out of here. That's fine. It's fine. Whatever. More for me.
Oh,
It's fine.
that's disgusting.
Non-alcoholic. I drink far too much Monster Energy drink to the point where I pee neon.
I it's about to hit summer at the moment, and in Australia, the alcoholic ginger beer and ciders I think are incredible. I never like beers that make me feel really bloated, so anything that's like doesn't have to be hoppy and light, but I probably I'm not a big weedy kind of guy.
I live far too close to a brewery, so I just try all their stuff. So yeah,
I've got 2 breweries about 5 minutes from my house, and they often have a lot of, like, food trucks as well. So tomorrow there's, like, American barbecue, food truck there, so I'll go there occasionally.
nice.
The last question I'll be curious about, as a fellow bearded man is, do you have any general beard grooming advice for us Duardin people who have nice long beards, and we like to look after them, and
Oh, you
we like
just
to plait them and
your oil, you got to oil them up pretty good. You get all those good things. Sometimes it just feels good to run a comb through them every now and again. You get some beard shampoo, it's good to go. This beard took me 3 years to grow because I have a baby face. So I'm not going to shave it anytime soon. I think this is going to stick around until November, where I'm going to turn it into a dirty stash for November, and raise some good money for it. But yeah.
nice. Nice. Yeah. Beard shampoo, a special beard and shampoo, not your regular Head and Shoulders, is absolutely critical. That's probably the number one lesson that you'll learn. I shaved this morning, and this is the beard I got, so I got no problem growing facial hair. Matt, this has been awesome. Ironically enough, I swear I thought this was going to be the shortest video. I'm like, surely there's like 7 war scrolls. This is going to be a quick one, but it just shows how deep this book is, how much insight, and we probably could have spoken a lot more about these combination mixed arms and how more of this into the build, and you've gotten deeper. And I think that's the exciting piece, that we can have this conversation, and I can do more cities videos, and we can talk about different stuff. But in the meantime, remember that this is not FAQ'd. So if you're watching this in the future and an errata or a points adjustment has come in, things might have gone up, things might have gone down. The Great Cannon, for example, if that goes down a certain amount of points, that actually would be very viable, and I would love to include at least one in my list.
Mhm.
Great kind of piece that I would love to have, just a little too expensive for me right now.
It's a
But
beautiful
just
model
keep
though.
it's a great model. It's I think it's got
There's
got some interesting rules. It's
the
just a
one
little
dude
too
that's just drinking on it. That guy alone is enough for me to buy it. Just that one guy just shooting a cannon and having a beer. It's a great freaking time.
it's it's you represented on the table. You're
Yep,
like, "Yep, that's me. You guys do the rest. I'll just shoot the cannon and have some beers."
exactly. It's a good time.
Anyone you want to shout out? Anything you want to wrap this up? Where can people find you on the internet? Bring us home.
Yeah, so where you can find me, I'm not terribly into Twitter, or actually sorry, X,
Yeah, it's X
whatever.
now.
Yeah, it is X now. I probably should get more into that, but I am on your Discord, so anybody can ping me with any questions after this video, or if I'm always down for TTS game every now and again. Shout outs, I mean, obviously, so our local scene is probably the one in Canada, other than probably Quebec. So I mean, you've got your Season of War guys; they're all a bunch of good dudes. Um, uh, but I'm all about my club, Beauty Hammer. It's a good group of guys. We got Yuri Levon, those guys all too well. Simeon, Sabeti, all great guys. Josh Aikens, best TO in Ontario. So yeah, we've got a good group. Mike Fleet. I don't know. I'm gonna forget people and they're gonna get pissed off at me, but whatever. Danny, fine, whatever. I want to give a special shout out to another dude in Ontario, Jake Sagan. I don't think this guy gets enough credit for. I'm on the retirement tour of cities. This guy never got off the bus. He played Cities for the longest time, to a point where I was his last Cities game until this new book has come out, and now he's beating the crap out of everybody with Flesh Eater Courts. But he helped me out a little bit with the list that I presented today. It was actually really funny. I initially said to him, "Yeah, coach wants me to go on there. He wants me to talk about dwarves. I need to make a list." His response was "Good luck." But then we actually spoke about it. But yeah, he's a good dude, and I don't think he gets enough credit, to be honest with you. So I want to give him a shout out as well.
Cool. Well, great shout outs. And I think probably the last thing I would say is you've just proved the point that nobody has the one list. And I think that's where communities, whether it's Facebook group, my Discord, finding areas where you can say, hey, I'm thinking about building a list around this, or hey, I'm really worried about long range threat. I want to get a Luminarch. Like, how do I think about a Luminarch and build around a Luminarch? And, high tide lifts all boats. And I think that's where we, an internet list goes really well, but how do we like build up our
Mhm.
knowledge? So hopefully through this discussion with Bart, with Freddie, with Matt, and the Discord chats and things like that, we can really unpack this cities book. So when it's on general sale, which I hopefully by the end of this year, that actually hasn't been announced, but by the time it's on general sale and it's been FAQ'd, errated and points adjusted and battle scrolled, we hit the ground running and we reclaim the realms on the name of Sigmar, and we start building areas like in Ulgu because we need to get out of Gur. Let's try a new realm.
Yeah, and I just want to say one last thing is, look how long it took for some of those meta lists in the old city book to come to fruition, right? I mean, look how long it took for that living cities thing in there. So I just think that this and that Phoenicium list that did really well at I
Even
believe at
like
LVO, right?
even I think the first list that did really well was it Tom Maudsley in the UK with Hello Heart teleporting with the Soul Screen Bridge, the Iron Drakes and the
Mhm.
crossbows. I think that took 3 or 4 months for Tom to even start 5-0ing. So,
Yeah.
it's gonna take a while to kind of crack this nut because there's so many options.
Yep. I truly believe, and this will be my final thought. I think a lot of people were just kind of looking at it, going, "Oh, it's just humans." But I truly believe that the soup isn't dead, and I think you're gonna see. I think you're gonna see this all over the place. Soup is alive and well, still going.
If the world is anything like my Discord, the amount of people who have picked up this box is going to be incredible. But then that's going to lead into the counter of cities. Like if cities becomes the big bad, then the Fusiliers, we talked a lot about the Fusiliers. Not that I think they're the big bad, but you're going to start seeing people. How do I counter that? How do I not shoot them so they don't return fire? Like people will start to look at this, and that's when the next layer of secret source, like we've talked about, will start to kind of get unsurfaced. So Matt, I've completely lost my voice and I've got no drink left. It was only tea, but actually, well, no, it was a very, very strong alcoholic. You just ignore the little tea bag that I've got there.
I
But
feel like it's too early for you to have that, but that's okay.
no, my voice is killing me. So I had a little tea there. But I hope everyone enjoyed the chat. Please join Discord. Matt's over there. Discord link is in the episode. We'll talk a lot about cities. We'll unpack it. We'll ride the waves. We'll wait for the new models to come out. I can't wait for the Pope. Once that Pope comes out and I can build all my flagellants into a list, rest assured, folks, there'll be a
She
flagellant talk. But I need the
she
Pope.
is she is awesome. But okay, yeah.
I don't want to talk about it yet because, like, by the time it's like, I have I have concerns like the Storm Drake, where Storm Drake War Scroll came out like 3 months before it actually hit the shelf,
Yep.
and like you get super excited, and then it got nerfed. Like its points went up, the pre-game move change, and there was and the general's command trait, you could no longer put it on a dragon leader. I'm like, oh man, like So
But
let's get
at the very least, the line is a hobbier's line. All of the models are beautiful, and they're going to be great to paint. And I love that Pope model. I like just aesthetically, I just love that Pope model.
I'm already
So,
planning conversions. Trust me, I'm already
nice.
planning my conversions. So, Matt, thank you again. I've tried to wrap this up 5 times now. I think it
Mhm.
just proves that we could keep talking about this. Great guest, great insight. Leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what if there's stuff in the Duardin side that we didn't talk about that you think maybe has legs. Maybe if there's a list built around gyrocopters and gyro bombers, and that OP cogsmith, and maybe like you've got some secret sauce, let us know in the comments and let us know in Discord because I'm really curious to hear from you. Matt, thank you. Chat, thank you. And bye. Like, subscribe. Bye.
Take it
See
easy,
ya.
guys.
Bye. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AOS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.